Happy and his pal, a robotic stowaway named Half, are on a mission. Find whoever stole Half's missing pieces and get those pieces back. After promising each other that they'd pursue even the faintest of clues to the furthest of corners, our spacefaring duo have bounced from one adventure to the next, hoping that eventually they'll end up in the right place at the right time. Their next stop, a tiny little oasis on a giant planet of star-spewing volcanoes, a place where robots melt and humans bake, and magic-imbued stars rule the land, or so they think. Happy Astronaut is perfect for readers of all ages, filled with action, humor, and heart. This debut issue will have many exciting covers to choose from, including a blank sketch cover variant to commission your very own cover. Pre-order Happy Astronaut #1 from your local comic book shop or directly from keenspotshop.com.
Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. Hey, you! Yes, you! Are you sick and tired of the daily grind? Do you hate your life? Become an astronaut today and explore the stars. I'm Anthony.
I'm David.
I'm Damon.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Jim.
Welcome to issue number 268 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Each and every week, we meet here to talk about comic books. We have an action-packed show for you today because we are going to have a creator spotlight with the creators of Happy Astronaut, Matt Fife and Matt Rodgers. And then after that, we're going to jump into weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth, talk about the books that we've been reading, whether they're new, whether they're old. We're going to talk about them there. Then we have an awesome news segment because we're going to do part 2 of 2 of our previews preview. That's where we jump into the giant previews catalog, cover the independent publishers and the merchandise, the apparel, all of that fun stuff. And then we're going to take another adventure with Katie for New Zealand Adventures Part 3. So we're going to do all of that in this very episode. But to kick it off, you know what? This is kind of embarrassing. I should have did this before we recorded any of this. But David, you know how last week when, on the audio version of this podcast that I gave you that sketch card, package that you would ask me to order for you?
Yeah. Actually, I've got 2 packs of those, but I really could use a third one.
A third one. Okay. Well, I do have an extra one here. So what I'm going to do, I wasn't able to get to your house. I figured, hey, you're right here. I might as well just hand it to you right here. So
Yeah,
here.
right. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I really needed another one of those.
All right, perfect. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Once again, I apologize. I should have done that off air, but here it is. Here we are. Okay, it's a free show, everybody. Okay, we're going to jump into our creator spotlight. Last week, we did a special pre-recording with Matt Fife and Matt Rodgers about Happy Astronaut #1. So let's cut to that now. Okay, welcome to the show, a returning Crimson Cowl Comic Club guest superstar, writer Matt Fife, and showing up on the show for the very first time. We've talked about him. His name's been dropped many a times, but this is his first actual appearance on the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, and this is Matt Rodgers, the artist. Welcome, Matt and Matt, the creators of Happy Astronaut. How are you guys doing? Talk over each other.
We're doing great. I'm doing great. I don't know about him, but I'm doing great.
I guess we're doing great.
The writer speaks for both of them, I guess. Is that how it usually goes, that kind of partnership?
We shouldn't do that, no.
Okay, so welcome to the show, guys. We've talked about you for quite some time. For those that are very new to you, Matt and Matt here are the creators of Happy Astronaut, which was a comic book that was released through a Zoop campaign at the end of summer last fall. And what happened from there is that you guys were kind of gearing up for another issue, but that other issue ended up somewhere else. because we're here to talk about a brand new Happy Astronaut #1 that is going to be published by Keenspot Comics. So that is the whole point of this interview, is kind of bringing you guys on. We are going to be doing the preview portion of our show later on, where we dive into the giant independent catalog here and talk about our picks. And one of those picks is definitely something under the Keenspot label called Happy Astronaut. What I did, I actually made a trailer for Happy Astronaut #1. So the people watching at home and for those listening to the audio will hear the trailer. I don't know if they'll hear the trailer. Don't take my word for that. That's a whole nother skill. But what you're gonna do, we're gonna jump over to the trailer for Happy Astronaut #1, which gives us the synopsis for that issue. This is the part where I edit that in. All right. So there it is. This is a comic that is currently available for pre-order. Let's jump over to Matt Fife first. I kind of want to talk about, you already talked about the creation of the Happy Astronaut and what you and Matt did to kind of get to this point. I want to ask directly how it feels to see this Happy Astronaut get thrown into a previews catalog. What were your initial reactions to that happening?
I actually haven't got to see it yet. I'm still waiting on mine to be delivered. But even on the website, it was pretty mind-blowing. And seeing that it got the diamond spotlight or whatever they gave us, that broke me for a day or two, maybe 3. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, page 374. It's one of those page numbers that I've memorized over the last couple of weeks as we've discussed it. But yeah, so, and you had shared, some of that when you're talking about the diamond spotlight and everything. And let's jump over to Matt Rodgers. What was your experience as an artist, as a comic creator, and getting to this moment where your art, your comic, is in the Diamond Previews catalog?
It's awesome. And I hope it sells a lot so that I can not have to have a day job. That'd be really cool. But I actually, I got mine.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize how huge they are.
They're
if you're not used to the catalog, it's up to like 500 pages or so of just so many different things between the independent comics and all the publishers and collectibles and apparel. So here we are with Happy Astronaut #1. You guys, I think you had talked about that you wanted to do an issue #2 that was going to be crowdfunded with Zoop. We'll start with Matt on how your process was from getting the news that you would be published with Keenspot, and how you kind of had to kind of pump the brakes on where you were going with that issue #2 to now revisit with a brand new #1. Can you kind of speak on that creative process of what you had to do to get to that moment?
Matt Fife or Matt?
Which Matt?
I think I said Fife. If I didn't say Fife, I meant Fife.
So what was the question again?
So you were basically geared up when we last talked to you on Crimson Cowl. You were getting ready to talk about like, hey, maybe by C2E2 we'll have issue #2 of Happy Astronaut out and do another campaign, blah blah blah. Because you guys were very successful with that first. I think you were funded within day 2, I think maybe.
Yeah, 36 hours.
Yeah, and so what did you have to do creatively as the writer, co-creator, to kind of change gears and now revisit #1 in a brand new, all new way?
It was really difficult because we got our email from Keenspot letting us know that they're interested in publishing Happy. Gave a lot of suggestions on what they would like to see change, and I could see a lot of their points, and I saw how their suggestions could be good. So we had to rework pretty much the entire Happy story. Came up with a new story for half. It changed a lot, but it helped us incorporate ideas from other projects that me and Matt have worked on in the past that just never saw the light of day, probably never will, but still were great ideas. And even though there was a lot of reworking on it and all that, it turned into an amazing comic. Like, I love our Zoop comic. That thing's like my first published comic, and I'll love it till the day I die. But Happy Astronaut #1 from Keenspot is a wonderful piece of art.
Yeah, and I think, it definitely probably helps that you had this issue where you basically had like the groundwork, you had kind of a blueprint in a way, but yeah, kind of going back to it and, like you said, restructuring it. Matt Rodgers, what was your experience with that as the artist and the co-creator of jumping in, being like, all right, I just finished issue #1. We just put it out there, we shipped them all out there. Now I have to draw #1. What is this? A Marvel reboot right away? So, what was your thoughts on jumping into a brand new #1 so quickly?
Well, the thing that really kind of sucked about it is we were like 90% done with #2. Like almost completely finished with it. And we had to do a major character redesign. And now we were getting to work in color, which without having to pay money for it, which is awesome. It was just like, all right, time to take this #2 and just put that away.
Flush it down, if you will, to kind of go with some.
Oh man, it was crazy. It's just it happened like so suddenly. It's here we are every single day. I'm like, here's working on #2, getting #2 finished, drawing it all on by hand on paper, and then, hey, we got this deal now. Oh, we have to change everything. It's like, oh, not everything, but we had to make some changes that make sense. Like, you guys know him as LRD. That's who Fife was referring to. His name is Half now. He looks different.
Yeah, I forgot that changed.
Yeah, because Keenspot thought that he looked too reminiscent of a character from Invader Zim. I don't know which, is it Gur? Is that the name of the character? The little robot that wears a flesh suit or something?
I think so. I don't know.
I never watched it or read it, so I don't know. So yeah, we had to change him around. So, but we're kind of referring to the Zoop #1 as kind of like a character primer. You read it, like the characters are the same. So it's just, you read that, you see how they interact, you get Happy's personality, you get Half's personality, and that stuff's still the same. It's just the visuals changed a little bit.
And how was it? We'll jump over to Kirby. What you got?
That was a big question of mine. I'm not going to get deep in it because I don't want to. But that character change, was the final change chosen by them or by you as what you went with?
They made the suggestion. Oh, sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Right. Like, they didn't suggest anything for like appearance wise. They just said that he looks a little bit too similar to this other thing. So I came up with his new design and just went with it.
I was thinking the newer design was similar to a lot of key things out there, so I thought maybe that was why they might have pushed it.
Yeah, I think it works better because he actually has a face that can emote now, as opposed to the robot that was just straight faced, which that's funny for its own reason, but now it can, like, since he's a screen face, it can show emotion, and we can have it do other things in the future if we need it to. So
just remember, one of the biggest problems in our world today is trying to dispose of all these TVs and big screens around the world.
Turn them into robots.
Yeah, turn them into robots.
It's simple. Turn them into robots.
Easy.
Another, just David.
Kind of a follow-up question on that with the suggestions that were made. Were there anything that they said, well, you should do this, that you guys kind of went, we don't really want to do that, or we don't agree with that? And then, if so, how did you handle dealing with that? Because you got this deal and you probably don't want to do anything that's going to screw up the deal, but how do you do that?
One of the suggestions was to put Happy in bright primary colors, because he's usually in a gray astronaut suit, so he kind of is the boring part of the universe. especially now that we're in color. So we kept his gray uniform, and we didn't really have to explain it. There wasn't any pushback on it. But our reasoning for keeping him in the gray is because while he's the main character, he is reacting to all the stories. So like the main focus of Happy Astronaut is going to be all the worlds he visits and how he has to react to it and deal with it. So he's kind of like the background character all the time. He's just along for the ride, but we're there with him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. It's a good choice because I love the color he is.
and the other part of that is, if you have all these worlds and all these other things going on, and you going in color, and you have all this stuff around him, having him be the one thing that is the gray or whatever still makes him stand out.
Yeah, it's because it's kind of like his boringness is what makes him stand out against all the other color. Exactly. So I couldn't imagine having him in like a bright orange suit, because like just from a color theory standpoint, trying to get that to work. Like, what if the planet he's on is orange? Then I have to worry about making him stand out from that. But there were taking criticism is hard, and that's how my gut reaction was when we got this list, because it was seriously like probably 7 or 8 things that he was just like, I love it, it's great, here's what I would change, and it's just this list, and it was like hard not to take it personally, like, man, screw this guy, he doesn't know, we're putting everything into it. But a lot of it made sense. Like, one of the other things that he asked us to change was the logo. So like, he thought that the logo we used on the Zoop campaign was too boring, and I went with that design was to like do a throwback to like Silver Age comics, just here's the title, here's the cover, and some little blurbs or whatever. So we got the new logo for that. Trying to think of what else he suggested. There was like one joke in the Zoop book that had to do with ska bands.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And he said that he loves music from then, and even he didn't understand a couple of the references. So we made the decision to just like not put any pop culture references in the book. Like, they exist in their own world, that we don't need to reference our world. So
and not kind of dating your own project, and kind of 20 years from now it just gets further away from whatever joke you're making.
Right, exactly.
And as an artist, Matt Rodgers, when you were doing all the by hand drawing and doing the physical artwork for the Zoop editions of the book, but making the transition to working digitally, is there, there's definitely some key things where you're probably able to work faster, and you have access to color. Can you kind of speak on making that decision? And I assume that was a decision that you made, but can you just kind of speak on your art transition from Zoop to now the Keenspot edition?
Okay, this is going to make me look like an idiot, but I actually hand drew all of the Keenspot #1 pages also.
Oh, okay.
But I got the dimensions wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So I scanned all those pages, colored all those pages, got them all together, and then found out that the dimensions of it were wrong and the ratio wasn't right to just stretch it. So I had to redraw the entire book. And I did that digitally for speed. I took vacation from work, and I did 18 full pages in 11 days of roughs, inks, colors, shading, everything. Just busted it out as fast as I could. And that really sucked, because I had planned to I have all this original art that I can take to a convention, I can sell it, and now I can't because it's not the real original art anymore. So it's just like, well, cool. There goes all that. But
technically it's still original art,
Right.
That's true.
I think there's some people just in the Zoom window that would probably be, if there was a price put on some stuff that, there might be a reason to move some of that. But yeah, I understand the when you were talking about that, we were conversing, and I never seen somebody so excited like you were leading into your, your 11-day vacation, and jumping into that, and you're just like, all right, I'm hunkering down. I'm just gonna do nothing but drawing, and you know, uh, some now while that's fun, a lot of people are like, all right, I'm doing vacation. Maybe I'll get some yard work done. Maybe I'll go relax, sit down. But you hunkered down and just did extra work, which benefits all of us because seeing those pages and the preview pages and all that kind of stuff. You did some awesome stuff there. So while it
Thank
may
you.
have sucked doing it, hopefully the outcome will be a nice reward for you.
Well, the one
He
thing
drew
I
it-
tried. You go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
He drew it twice, and we still hit our super early due date. Our due date was June 1st, and is that right? June 1st? Yeah, we'll go with June 1st. And he nailed it. He had to letter it twice, he had to draw it twice, and all that. He nailed it. So,
And like the really funny thing, I pride myself in my speed. Like I can get work done really fast. In those 11 days I was off work, I also played and beat Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So
Yeah, I was tired just seeing your updates on what you were all accomplishing, and it's just like, man, I'm not doing enough here at home. So
and the cool thing is it all turned out better the second time around. It's not like your guys are going to get some like half-assed stuff. It actually turned out it's an improved version.
Kirby.
I'm a big proponent for any oddball stuff like that you did that never went somewhere and stuff like that. Thing I never got to ask you last time when we had Matt Fife on, because Matt Rodgers couldn't make it. I was curious. I asked Troy Dungara this and ended up picking up his because of it. Did you guys ever get published in the past before this in something before you got together to do Happy Astronaut? Some like little sketch that you threw into a comic or a little quote or something you sent to a comic?
No,
When it comes to like fan art and stuff like that.
no.
we'll be
the
in Oh Yeah
closest-
number 15.
Yeah, we have a page in Oh Yeah 15 if that ever comes out. That
That's
was our
about-
first technically published thing.
Yeah.
Is that, and then we put out 2 books before that one book comes out. So
Yeah,
probably more.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, even Desmond Reed, we didn't talk about it on last week's episode. But on that episode, like I remember him talking on a different interview that the stuff he actually had, like the Cola Pop Creamies graphic novel completed first and then did the zine stuff afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just kind of interesting just to kind of see the way, schedules work out. And, you guys had that Oh Yeah stuff done for quite a while, but now you're kind of off to the races, and then something much older that you did is still waiting to be published. But yeah, it's always
Kind of sucks. It kind of sucks because like this stuff looks really good comparatively.
yeah. And
Like that's gonna come out and we're gonna be like, ugh.
Maybe we can have Art put a disclaimer on it.
yeah, a little asterisk that says, drawn before, Happy Astronaut #1 now available. For
Right.
Keenspot.
Definitely
One we
makes sense
didn't
because the
know.
more the more you're doing stuff, your art just improves. You're getting more and more practice, especially when you're do a whole issue and then have to redo it, because that was just a practice. But your art gets better and better. And I've talked to other people and I've experienced it. I'm sure Anthony, being kind of newer to the drawing, my son with his art and working on stuff like if anybody remembers hearing Anthony talking about Gene Guy,
Yeah.
that was kind of one of the things with where that became a problem with finishing that is like he would draw it and then he'd put it aside for a while and then he was working on so many other things. And then by that time he's like, well, my art has improved so much. Now I feel like I have to go back and redo that whole thing. And the same thing with some of his other stuff. So yeah, I can definitely understand where like having something that wasn't released, that you've been sitting on for a while, you might feel that, yeah, that's not my best work anymore. It might have been my best work at the time, but now it's not my best work. And, so yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that is handy because me and Fife have, I want to say like 4 probably almost complete issues of Happy Stories that never got released anywhere. And it was just kind of us figuring out our process and character design and getting used to getting him to look the same from panel to panel, all that kind of work. And it's like we can draw from that in the future for stuff if we want to. But yeah, we have like the first book that we were planning, it's like it started out as like a 48-page story, and we ended up whittling it down to 24, and that book's done on a hard drive. And then we have our second story done on a hard drive, and then we had we have a bunch of like little 4-page stories, a bunch of little single-page stories, because we've been working on Happy Astronaut since what, like 2017. I just randomly drew this little picture of an astronaut with a really big smile. I sent it to Fife and I said, "You should write a story about this guy." And he was just like, "Okay."
So print
I'm
them
easy.
all out, staple them together, and we'll buy them.
Yeah, you definitely have a customer base here. Anybody else? Katie, if you had any questions, feel free to jump in. If anybody else does, now's the moment as we kind of get to the end of this little portion of the interview.
I got a suggestion I was thinking about, and I'm sure that Anthony is going to plug Cartoonist by Night anyways. But the idea came up as I was looking at covers, and there was the sketch cover variant, and I'm like, what would be great to have you guys do on that is to take like 4 of those sketch variants, and each of you do a new cover for Happy Astronaut, because it would be so interesting to see, of course, Matt's already drawing Happy Astronaut, but it's a new chance to improve upon his work. You got Matt Fife, who's a writer, getting to see what he comes up with for art for a cover for Happy Astronaut. Troy getting to see his style and doing that, and then of course Anthony having to go to a physical medium.
So to a little peek behind the curtain, I do have 4 blank sketch cover variants that are pre-ordered, because that is exactly what's going to happen. And then Troy was the one who suggested that we should do that in August, September when they come out, and do that as one of the episodes. And I've already suggested being like, well, can I do it digitally and then just print it out and then tape it to my physical cover? But I'm going to be practicing until we get there. And but yeah, so that is already in the works. So
I pre-ordered I pre-ordered a single sketch cover. I need to up it to 4 total, it looks like.
yeah.
I didn't order any of my own book.
Speaking of ordering your book, so on page 374 of the previews catalog, we'll talk about it just a little later in the show as we go around the horn here. But Happy Astronaut #1, page 374 from Keenspot Comics. You'll see some images that I'll put in post up here to show all the different covers. We have a Matt Rodgers main cover. We have a Troy Dungara cover B. We have a Matt Rodgers holofoil cover. We have a blank sketch cover, and then there is the weathered cover. That is the cover that Troy did, but then Matt Rodgers went in and did some awesome weathering. You'll see the example right here up on the screen, and just kind of mangled up the cover. Take a look at some of the details, what might be written on there, and and there's just a lot of cool different covers to choose from. It's an excellent comic book, so this is kind of getting the word out there for people to take a chance on a brand new book, take a chance on some new creators, making some dreams come true. Pre-ordering this comic book will be key, not only just to make sure you get your copy reserved at your local comic shop or your preferred online retailer for those that don't have shops near them, but it also just kind of helps with the numbers, especially for the brand new creators to kind of see that there's interest. There's some stores that could get the pre-orders in and be like, oh, there's some people that want this book that maybe they never even considered, because when you look through this catalog, there's just so many books to choose from, and not a single store can get one of every single thing. But if someone goes in and pre-orders a Happy Astronaut, they'll see that and then they'll read into it, and most likely order a couple copies and maybe put it on the rack. So it is real important. if you are interested in doing it, to send out those pre-orders, as well as keenspotshop.com is another great source. I do have, I think I got I'm trying to think, I think I got the weathered one. I think I had pre-ordered one of them from keenspotshop.com as well. So that was extremely easy to do. And yeah, so we just highly recommend it. And that's that. Any
Yeah.
final words
I
from
think I'm gonna get one of the sketch variants too, just so that as I'm watching, when you guys finally put out that episode, I'll just draw along.
There we go.
There we are.
We love it. We love it. Any final words, Matt Fife, to the listening audience, to the watching audience, to kind of give your final little pitch of, Happy Astronaut #1 coming this August?
Ooh, I didn't know this was coming.
Yeah, you got to keep you on your toes here.
Yeah. I guess just, pre-order it. I've been calling comic shops and talking to owners and managers and asking them to order copies, and it's been great hearing that they already have, some shops already have pre-orders in, which is really weird, but also great, makes that part of the job easier. So I'd really like to hear that from more shops when I call them. Pre-order. Sorry.
Any added words there, Matt Rodgers, for kind of putting that final pre-order call out there for those watching and listening?
Just please buy it. So,
We heard your message at the beginning where you said you want to, replace your day job. So you can make this guy's dream come true just by buying a comic book. So
that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
Something that I've been telling retailers that they have liked to hear is that all our stories are done in one. So if you like issue 1, you can get issue 2. If you don't like issue 1, you at least got a full story. Issue 1 leads into number 2, but you don't have to read number 2 to enjoy number 1, if that makes sense. It's not to be continued, but it is.
Troy had that model with Kid Slapshot where, it's very, if you missed even the 2 or 3 issues before one of them, that, you just kind of, you jumped into it, you jumped into a new little adventure, and that's always a fun little way to structure your books. Huh?
That's the way comics should be right now, with prices and et cetera, mostly prices. $5.99 each. So,
but there's a lot of comic there, and you heard about all the work that went into it, especially on Rodgers' side when going through and redrawing this issue just for you guys at home. So, yep, good. All right, so and if you want a little more Happy Astronaut discussion, a little more deep dive into the creation process, maybe even to see some of the creators and myself working on our own little sketches, there's going to be a Cartoonist by Night episode. The next big featured episode will drop as soon as I can edit it. We are going to record it at the night of this recording. So based on how these episodes come out between Crimson and Cartoonist by Night, it's just, it's either out now or just wait till tomorrow and it'll be out. But yep, so that'll be a longer form to check that out, to do a deep dive into Happy Astronaut. So thank you very much to Matt Fife and Matt Rodgers for showing up here at Crimson Cowl Comic Club. We'd be excited to have you back in the future. I'm hoping I can try to, talk to your people and get all the schedules going and get that booked, and meet all your demands and get your writers and all that kind of stuff, and make sure we treat you well here at the comic club. So
it's great just to get a hold of our agent. That's fine.
Will do. All right, so that is going to do it for this Creator Spotlight. Now let's move on to our next segment. So there you have it, and you definitely know that was recorded in the past, because in that video I was wearing a black and white t-shirt from Cartoonist by Night, and not the colored one, what I'm wearing here, so that was done in the past. All right, we're going to carry on with the show. We are going to jump into the weekly reviews. Welcome to the weekly reviews. I'm going to kick it off with a much anticipated title. This is Void Rivals, issue #1. War rages around the Sacred Ring, where the last remnants of 2 worlds have collapsed around a black hole in a never-ending war. However, when pilot Dirac and his rival Salila Both crash on a desolate planet. These two enemies must find a way to escape together. But are they alone on this strange planet? And what dark forces await that threaten the entire universe? This comic is done by Robert Kirkman, Lorenzo Di Felice, Mateus Lopez, and Russ Wooten. All right, for anybody watching and listening, I will give you a heads up. This is a very much talked about issue from the week that we are recording. This will not have spoilers. Some of the issues that we talk about on this very show could include spoilers, but I will let you know if you have not read Void Rivals, if you're waiting to get to your local comic shop, if you're waiting for it to, show up in the mail. I won't be talking about what the internet's been talking about. I pre-ordered this 2 months ago because it's a Robert Kirkman comic. Him and Lorenzo did an awesome job on the Oblivion song series that I was a big fan of. That was a lot of fun. And quite frankly, if I see Robert Kirkman's name pop up, I will definitely be jumping onto his next independent title there. So, Void Rivals is one of those things I didn't really read the synopsis beyond what we just heard there. So, this is a story about, you have space wars. It's a very cliche type of thing where you have these, opposing armies. You got two people that are basically stranded on a planet together. They've sworn to their, to their planets, to their races, that they're not supposed to mingle with the opposing enemy and all that kind of stuff. And it's very kind of cookie cutter sci-fi. But there's a moment in this book that is an awesome surprise. It's kind of really, tells you what this series is going to be. Once again, I'm not talking about that. I got a little warning at the beginning of the week that the internet wasn't wasting time to spoil the big twist, the big surprise. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll lay low. I won't, mingle around on the internet. And I get to pick up my copy. And I mentioned to someone that like, oh, yep, I was able to avoid everything. And can't wait to get home. It's going to be the first thing I read. And then all of a sudden, that person literally spoiled it in the next sentence. And I was like, I just kind of waited, and I just kind of like, huh, okay, that was interesting. So, having said that, I want to try to preserve this experience for those that have yet to read Void Rivals. It's super cool. Robert Kirkman does a good job of kind of setting up universes. Um, and if you were a fan of Oblivion Song, you are getting a different style here. There are specific like alien creatures that had very specific looks to it. I didn't know too much about the about Lorenzo's art and kind of the style and everything. But I'm not seeing some similar designs when you're dealing with similar sci-fi themes and such. So it kind of did make it seem like a fresh start. It wasn't just like, all right, let's do the next sci-fi related thing. They definitely set it up to feel different than their last series. But yeah, they're constantly going back and forth with trying to survive, and they kind of get to a point where they're like, all right, well, we both have ships that are abandoned. They're both need repairs, and maybe if we use the parts from your ship, it could help my ship and we can both get out of here. But it all comes down to the fact that they have to kind of reconcile the differences that they are from opposing uh sides of the big galactic war that's happening. But it does get to a lot of heart and stuff when they really start getting to it and kind of talking about how they're stranded here and they have nothing else to do, and try to find a way to work together. And even when they try to do that, it's still they still have their hesitation on trusting one another. So yeah, that is all I'm going to say about this issue, because there is an awesome idea that is inserted into this comic that really sets it aside, really makes the internet want to talk all about it before you read it. So that was just kind of my spoiler free setup. This is something that I am definitely going to stick with. It was such an awesome first issue debut. So that is the brand new series debut, Void Rivals issue number 1. All right, we are going to jump over to Damon. Welcome back to the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. Damon, what you got for us?
Okay, let me change my screen over here. I'm doing all 4 issues of the Willy's Wonderland prequel. Willy's Wonderland was the surprise hit horror flick of 2021. Nicolas Cage unleashed a can of punch pop on the Willy's serial killing animatronic crew in the film. But what came before the janitorial rampage? Find out in this official prequel to the movie, giving you all the party-filled blood splatter you can handle. I was a big fan of the movie when it came out. It is basically Nicolas Cage in all of his greatness. He doesn't say a single word in the entire movie. So it's a real stretch for acting. All he does is his facial expressions and how he works. And basically in the movie, he is tasked with cleaning up this, basically like around here, we'd call it a Chuck E. Cheese. But it's a disheveled, rundown Chuck E. Cheese that supposedly the owner wants to re-clean up and reopen. And so if Nicolas Cage can work the night shift and clean it up in the morning, he will get the money to pay for the repairs on his car and he can get out of town. Unfortunately, all the animatronic animals in the building are actually possessed serial killers trying to kill him. It was fun. It was a blast. It's an independent film, kind of a ripoff of Five Nights at Freddy's, but the movie came first. There's a Five Nights at Freddy movie coming, but it was great. It has kind of a cult following now, even though it's only a couple years old, and there's talks of a sequel. This 4-issue run is the prequel to the movie. I do not have 4 hands, so I will just hold up 2 at a time. But the cover A's are connecting, so I don't know how well that comes, but they will all connect. That was issue 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. They have, there we go, all the different animatronic animals on the top killing people. Good times. There is a lot of blood and violence and language in this. This is definitely for adults. There's no nudity or anything like that, but there is some comedy. The only issue I had with this magazine, this series, is when you first start out, you're not really sure what's going on. What it does is it's like each page, it goes back and forth. So when you're looking at the first 2 pages, that's what's going on now in Willy's Wonderland. And then when you turn the page, those next 2 pages were what was happening in the past when they were all still human. And basically the storyline is Willis is the man's real name, is a very twisted psychopath serial killer who gets caught. He used to kill kids at birthday parties. He'd get hired in to be the photographer, and at family reunions or birthday parties and that, he would slaughter the whole family. He gets caught, and while in the nut house, he gathers 7 more followers. Each one is a serial killer or crazy person of themselves. And these 4 issues pretty much tell part of the story is what each person did and how they got caught and Willy recruiting them. And then it also tells the carnage that happened at Willy's Wonderland as their animatronics that got it closed in the first place before the movie. So it's kind of a cool backstory. You see what each animatronic character, how they were when they were human. And then you see what they all did as they were the animatronic character. And the art is good. Like, make sure there's nothing on here. Like, here is the alligator chomping off the woman's arm. Of course, Willy is Willy the Weasel. And no, I'm not making these names up. Kirby can attest to that. It's just hard to find a page that I could actually show. I mean, here's kind of the safe one. There's like Willy and like the decapitated head on the cake and all the blood and that. I don't want to spoil it because it's one of those where it's like a B-grade horror movie where the kills is what makes it fun and interesting. And so I don't really want to give away any of the violence or any of that kind of thing. But if you were a fan of the movie, this is a great prequel to it. So to just give you a little bit more. The only other complaint that I have about it is if you never saw the movie, the way this ends, it's going to be like, what happened? Because the way this ends is you see all the human when they're all humans, you see them gathered around. Like, here's the last panel with them as humans. You see him, I got a plan, and he's got all the tarot cards. That is, I don't want to give away, but that if you see the movie, it shows how all the animatronic characters got possessed. It also involves those tarot cards, and I don't want to say anything more. And then how the comic book, the current stuff ends is with all the characters and the back of the sheriff and a little girl. And if you don't see the movie, it's like, well, what kind of ending is that? Well, that's how the movie starts, is with the sheriff and the little girl. And so you really need to know the movie to really enjoy this, or it'd be cool if you start with this and as soon as you finish book 4, immediately start watching the movie, and it'd be like a direct continuation.
And my one question is, with this being a prequel, does it give you information at the end of the story saying like, hey, check out the movie here? Or does it kind of let people know if they had no idea this was a movie? Because without you guys here at the club, I still have never heard of this beyond you guys talking about it. So I was curious if somebody were happened to pick this up, if there was any like, hey, now check out the movie on VOD or whatever, or VHS. What's it on?
Well, it says in the description that this is the prequel to the movie.
Okay, so it does give an audience. Okay.
And then in the special features, like this, I should say who this is written by and all that. This is put out by American Mythology Productions. I am sorry, but I am bad with names. It's written by Sa Chek. Just SA is the first name, and then Czech is the last name, and James Kuhorik. The art is by Puis Calzada. Coloring is by Emmanuel Ordaz, and the lettering is by Natalie Jane. And then the back of each issue, of course, has, advertisements for other books, but like at back of first one has like a 4-page interview with the creators of this universe, the movie, and they talk about how they came up with their favorite characters, what they had to do for the big screen, things like that. And they also have like cool stuff. Like book 1 ends with the mandatory training video and a description on the training video to work at Willy's Wonderland. Book 2 at the back has like an advertisement for the drink. And if you ever do see the movie, Nick Cage drinks a bunch of these cans, and this is the logo. So it's like I would compare it to Jolt. And then each book has like a character profile. Like this is Gus the Gorilla, the advertising for it. And so each issue has like cool special features. Like here is, employee of the month, and it's one of the creators, just fooling around with a Willy's Wonderland shirt. So it really is a lot of fun. I like these kind of movies. The independent, low budget horror. It's just something different, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a classic I like. This is right up my alley. And the prequel book, it was a lot of fun. I would unfortunately there's no trade, and these have been out for a while, but they were readily available. There's like multiple covers for each. I like the cover A's because they all do the connecting covers. They're still relatively cheap on eBay. I would highly, if you're into like horror and this type of thing, and you want to see Nick Cage go a whole movie without saying a single word, and I'd highly recommend it. And it's fun because there's other people that get into the Willy's Wonderland in the movie, and he's kind of weird, Nick Cage, and so he has his watch set to his certain breaks. He's getting so many breaks for his shift, so he could be in the middle of fighting like one of the animals trying to save a person. His watch will go off. He'll immediately stop what he's doing, go to the break room, have a can of soda, and play pinball. And then when his watch goes off again,
be Union.
Yeah, he'll walk back out there, and if the person's dead, he'll clean it up. Otherwise, if they're still alive, then he'll go back to kicking attacking the animatronic, and it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend the movie, and if you really like the movie, I'd recommend getting this prequel series because it's the same kind of fun and they just go together perfectly.
Cool.
So just a question here, because it sounds like it might be a little confusing for people to read the comic if they haven't seen the movie. Now, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen other Nicolas Cage movies. I've seen plenty of movies where Nicolas Cage didn't have a single line in the movie. And I used to work at Chuck E. Cheese's. Would I be able to enjoy this comic book?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The way the comic book starts off is the very first page starts with them singing the addicting song that will drive you nuts when you see the movie, and ending in the slaughter. That's the very first page of issue number 1. Then when you turn the corner, it goes back in time and it will start from there. Like I said, it might be a little confusing because it goes back and forth between present time and in the past, when the killers are both human and then animals. But halfway through the book, you'll figure it out halfway through the first episode. And it introduces you to all 8 serial killers and their backstories. And you also get introduced to their animatronic counterpart. So, I mean, to give you an idea, you'll have, Willy the Weasel. Where's my list here? Willy the Weasel, Ozzy the Ostrich. I forget who Artie is. Cammy is like a chameleon. Tito is the gorilla. Tito the alligator. Gus is the gorilla. Sarah is like a fairy type thing, and Nighty Night is like a big knight with a big sword that like cuts you through in half. So yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to start there to see if you like it. But if you want to just pick this up, there's enough here to give you the backstory that by the time you're done, you'll want to start the movie. Just because of the way that's the thing, the way the book 4 ends, it's how the movie starts, and it's expecting you to already know the movie. So if you just ended book 4 and didn't watch the movie, you'd be like, well, what happened? So it book 4 ends right where the movie starts. So it doesn't spoil the movie for you. So if you've never watched the movie, by the time you're done with book 4, you'll be like, well, what happens? What happened next? What happened to the killers? By watching the movie, you'll know the answer. And you'll know how the people became animatronic. So it can work either way. If you watch the movie first, you're not going to lose anything by reading the comics. It'll be a little bit more enjoyable to you. But if you want to go in blind, it'd be fun to read the comics and then go right into the movie.
And then follow up by going to Chuck E. Cheese's and sitting there over a piece of pizza, pondering what kind of horrendous crimes were committed by Mr. Much. Helen Hennings, Jasper T. Jowls, and of course, Chuck E. Cheese himself.
The fact that you actually know all those names.
Well, it's his former coworkers.
Yeah, he used to work there. You should know him.
As scary as those creatures are, I can tell you there are a lot of more questionable people who have been through those doors.
He went to
you jump up on stage and you start dismembering puppets.
He went to the christenings of all their children. So I mean, David, I would assume you'd still know their names. So
it's surprising because I consider Chuck E. Cheese the ultimate form of birth control. You walk into a Chuck E. Cheese and see all those kids going, you'll never have kids of your own.
You just have a lot of pizza.
Right. Well, I wouldn't classify that as pizza. It's more like indigestible cardboard covered in tomato paste, but I digress.
You'll digress if you can't digest. Let's jump over to Kirby. What you got?
First off, I would say if you like that style of storyline, get the comics first, because I was frustrated after watching the movie wanting to know more prehistory, and I was glad when the comics came out. But if you're going in and not knowing what you're getting for, then go for the movie first. But
also watching the Flintstones helps learn about prehistory.
All right, let's get on to The Bomb. This is Fearless Dawn's new run, The Bomb. The origin of Fearless Dawn is finally told. This is a great jumping on point for any comic book fans who are not familiar with this funny, sexy, stumbling superheroine. Learn how the awkward Prissy Jones gets her superpowers and how she creates her own costume of moose elks, action gloves, and whoop-ass utility belt. Fearless Dawn comics have always been about great art and fun frolics, and this latest offering is no exception. This is done by Steve Mannion, who whips up the craziest comic book tales this side of the Goon and Mad magazine in this brilliantly executed high-octane project, Fearless Dawn. Looks like we're not getting no more stuff in here, but it does introduce our Crumbesque's Jungle Chick and the dinosaur also in here. But yeah, you get it's nice getting the whole origin story of our character after she's had a variety of runs already. So if you've never checked her out, this would be a great time to do it. And then you get to see how she, like they said, how she makes her outfit. And you get to see why she ends up going after these Nazi zombie type characters and all that, and why she ends up choosing the lifestyle that she does and how she gets into it all. And we also get to see some of the zombie aliens coming from space and how that all starts out, which is a nice whole complete origin of what's going on. But then, like they said, the Jungle Chick storylines, we have a variety of quick short stories in the back here that just jump you around, showing you what's happening with her and this giant dinosaur. It's funny how the dinosaur keeps trying to eat her, and the things that happen that just cause the dinosaur to get injured just before munching down on her. There's a dinosaur walking around with a crutch and all beat up and broken armed and stuff. But yeah, this is a really nice introduction in the middle of all the different short stories that she's been doing, and it doesn't leave you hanging either way, whether you're a long time follower or if you're fresh to the comic. I suggest checking out Fearless Dawn, the Bomb. I believe it's a four run set that's coming out by Asylum Press. So
All right. Let's jump over to Katie. Normally I say let's go to a galaxy far, far away, but I don't know what galaxy this takes place in, but let us know what you got.
All right, this takes place in our galaxy, the Milky Way. This week I have Assassin's Creed Trial by Fire. This is a Ubisoft and Titan Comics collaboration from several years ago now, inspired by the very popular Assassin's Creed video game franchise. It was written by Anthony Del Cole and Connor McCreary, and the artist is Neil Edwards, and the colorist is Ivan Nunez. Letterer is Richard Starkings, and comic crafts Jimmy Betancourt. Okay, so this actually introduces an original character and storyline. I Googled, she's not from the games. Her name is Charlotte de la Cruz. It is set in 2015, so the modern era. Charlotte is kind of not really going anywhere in life. She's just having a hard time, like, landing a better job, a better place to live. And when she's not working her crappy job, she's on the internet, hanging around all kinds of conspiracy forums and playing online games. Well, one day, everything changes in her life when she is recruited by the Brotherhood of Assassins because they need her to help them on a mission. Of course, if the assassins are coming for her, the Templars are not far behind. And yeah, things kind of get off to a bang. And then we jump into the past, and we're going to try and use Charlotte to access her ancestors' memories because her ancestors were assassins. And then we're jumping back to the time of the Salem witch trials, and we get to see a whole bunch of things going on there. And then the end kind of ends with Charlotte helping them with their mission after getting a whole bunch of clues from the past, and figuring out who the real bad guy was all along. And then they fight. The bad guy is a traitor to the assassin, so he is an assassin, but now he's selling family secrets to the Templars, and bad things will happen. And then the book kind of ends on a cliffhanger. So let's see. If you have not like played an Assassin's Creed game either ever in a very long time, you're going to want to Google what those games are about, because without it, it's just, kind of an action comic, which is fine, but you won't get it. Because you have to understand the history between the Templars and the Assassins. So the Assassins are supposed to be the good guys. The Templars are supposed to be the bad guys. The Assassins want to help the world through like maintaining freedom and democracy at any cost for everyone. And the Templars think they can help the world by rules and order and structure, and they're the ones in charge and deciding what people can and can't do. And both groups are pretty okay accomplishing their goals by whatever means. I personally don't think that you can clearly say, oh, they're good guys, they're bad guys, because both groups do awful things for the right reasons. So definitely give the Assassin's Creed lore a quick Google, because otherwise this will not make a lot of sense to you. I will say, for a video game tie-in book, it actually was pretty decent. The art style is really nice. They did a few cool things that, if you've played the games, I thought were kind of funny. Like the first time Charlotte attempts the leap of faith, which is basically the assassins do a swan dive off of a very high place, and of course they stick their landing all the time, and they don't ever die or end up horribly injured. But Charlotte tries to do it the first time, and she totally messes it up and is knocked unconscious for several hours. So that was pretty funny. They do bring in some video game mechanics, like the eagle eye mechanic, which is a way of letting you kind of basically like having built-in like heat vision and night vision to be able to see through things and track your targets. So they brought that in. And then we also see her try and shimmy her way up an air shaft. And the reason they explain that she just magically knows how to do that is, well, the bleeding effect from exploring her ancestors' memories in the Animus. So I thought that was interesting and a good way to bring in these video game mechanics. One con, besides having to know Assassin's Creed to understand this, is I felt like a lot of the action in this story happened because the writer said so. I felt like it was more like this happens and we have to buy into the fact that it's a story, because character-wise, I didn't see a lot of motivation for these characters to do what they were going to do. They sort of just fed me most of the information in this book, like, oh, the conflict is this, the clues are this, we're doing this because this, rather than like show me why they're doing this. So I didn't connect to the characters on a deep level. But overall, I would still say it's a solid read. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. If somebody did enjoy this story, Titan ran several volumes under this run. I think there's 3 trades that does cover the entire story of Charlotte, and then they started another run which talks about some other assassins. But I would say if you are an Assassin's Creed fan who wants to read comics or does read comics, you'll probably like this. If you're just a comics fan who's like, yeah, I want to read a cool like action adventure comic, you'll get that. And there's a lot of good guys and bad guys doing cool martial arts stuff, but you won't understand a lot of the story. But still solid. I'm glad I tried it. I'd read more Assassin's Creed in the future, given the chance. That's my review of Assassin's Creed Trial by Fire, the trade paperback from Titan Comics and Ubisoft. Check it out.
Good. All right. Let's uncover what Jim's going to talk about.
I have Power Girl Special number 1.
I set you up for the Joker uncovered because that's what you put first.
Oh, sorry.
That's why I said that, where I'm like,
oh, I thought I had them.
You can talk about whatever one you want first.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Do the joke again.
Okay.
All right, but I have Power Girl Special first number 1, because I've been reading the Justice Society of America, and the Power Girl has been generally a member of that, and I've been interested in the story in that Huntress has been the main character there so far. And I'm going back about 10 years ago or so when DC, the New 52, they had their Earth 2 storyline going. And then they ran a title called World's Finest that was Huntress and Power Girl. And they were the Robin and the Supergirl of Earth 2 who got boomed over to Earth, the main Earth. And because there was already a Robin and a Supergirl, they couldn't be those characters. So they became Huntress and Power Girl. And those are the ones that I'm most recently familiar with. Well, starting to read the Justice Society, they have the Helena Wayne version of Huntress again. So it's like, oh, I want to check out Power Girl, see if they're tied in. This is a totally different Power Girl. Although she is still from Earth 2, it's just none of the story ties back into what it was then. And I have lost a lot of history on what has happened to her. However, this was a very good tie-in to the recent Lazarus planet storyline, because during that, Power Girl got some psychic powers. And with those psychic powers, she got to fight this really interesting psychic character from Earth 2 named Johnny Sorrow. And think of Johnny Sorrow as like the Riddler from the Batman movie, the Jim Carrey Riddler, how he was able to really take over anybody's mind, but he can do it like on a large scale and make you live in your dreams and live in that world. Power Girl, with her new psychic abilities, is able to deal with that. And she's also picked up a new power due to the Lazarus Reigns called the Astral Punch, where she can actually punch through the physical plane into the astral plane and make changes there. So unfortunately, she loses her psychic abilities during the course of this book, but she is able to keep her astral punch. What I found interesting was that during the course of the story, she went to seek help from the rest of the Superman family, whom she has felt alienated from, and none of them were able to respond or answer her because they've all fallen victim to Johnny Sorrow and they are basically unconscious. And so she's basically on her own and dealing with this, except for her one friend. At the end, having taken care of the issue with Johnny Sorrow and been able to revive all these Superman family characters, they all come to her and welcome her personally into the Superman family and say that they do love and appreciate her and want her to be part of their group. So that was nice. I did mention that I found this to be a very different Power Girl than I was used to. In fact, she has a different name. She is not Karen Starr. She is Paige. And I don't know why, don't know how that happened. Like I said, I have not been following this character very much for the last, 8-10 years. So I'm not sure, but so unless there's another Power Girl from Earth 2 that came to Earth 1, or I don't, it's unusual, but it's not going to get me to follow the new series of Power Girl, but I did want to know how she was going to tie into the Justice Society book. So I did find it interesting that way. There is a backstory in here, which I thought was really strange, because the backstory featured Fire and Ice, a couple of super heroines that were also in another backstory of a book that I just recently read as well. So I'm thinking, what's going on? Are they going to really push to bring these two minor characters back into a more prominent role? Fire and Ice are a couple of women Fire is a Brazilian from the rainforest, and ice is from Sweden or Norway, or someplace, one of those countries, and has ice powers. So, but they have a nice moment taking care of business, and they get to have their moment with Superman as well. So, but interesting book, and for it's actually a nice oversized issue as well. So.
Cool.
Leah Williams is the writer, Marguerite Sauvage is the artist, and letters by Louise.
It's an awesome creative team.
Yep.
Cool. All right. And also, I'm no mixologist, but if you put a little tequila in your Astral Punch, it gives it a nice kick. All right, we're going to jump on to my next title here. I'm going to talk about Captain Marvel issue number 50. It has been an impossible journey, one that's taken Carol Danvers across time and space and pitted her against enemies, new and old. Superstar writer Kelly Thompson has run Marvel's premier hero through the gauntlet, and now the boss of space burns brighter than ever. No one believed she would get this far, but that's the power of Captain Marvel and her Carol Corps. They will never give up, higher, further, faster, to the very end. Do not miss the capstone to a record-breaking run as Thompson puts her final fingerprints on Earth's mightiest hero. This specific issue was done by Kelly Thompson, Javier Pina, David Lopez, Yen Nitro, and VC's Clayton Cowles. So from issue number 1 to issue number 50, Kelly Thompson has led this book on an incredible run. This issue 1 came out right before the movie in 2019, and it was kind of a good clean slate. Kelly Writer's just a hit writer over at Marvel, and she just kicks butt on everything that she's been doing. So to carry on this book for 50 issues plus annuals and all the specials and stuff like that, it was a tremendous run. Basically, it's kind of like a highlight for the run that she's been doing. Carol's dealt with Manhattan's Roosevelt Island being turned into an apocalyptic wasteland. She's entered Marvel's War of the Realms. She was given 24 hours to kill the Avengers, which personally was my favorite story arc. I talked about this at the club. This would have been, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, it was just an awesome story where basically you just opened up and then she was just like attacking all the Avengers and killing them. And it was just like a multi-issue story that was just such a big mystery on why Carol was doing this. But obviously there's a reason behind it, had a cool reveal. I talked about all that stuff years ago, but yeah, this was part of that run. She also became the Supreme Accuser in the Empire event. New York was under attack again, but Carol was trapped in the future. While dealing with the breakup, she also confronts one of her biggest weaknesses, which was the mystic arts, an awesome story arc with Doctor Strange and Agatha and Wanda and all them. Carol returned to space to help her half-sister, L'Oreal, as there appears to be an evil Captain Marvel threatening the universe. She also created an entire new being out of her cosmic energy named Binary, which cycles back to some of the origins of some great Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers stories. And lastly, she returned to a dark point in her past, referring to the binary stuff, as she and her team go up against the Brood army who put her loved ones in danger. Those are kind of just the overall view of what these 50 issues have done. Left out spoilers, obviously, just kind of want to give a bunch of hits to all those different trade paperbacks that are out there. I think there's a volume 1 omnibus that's coming out for these 50 issues. What this specific 50th issue does is it's a tame one as far as all of the action and plot and the big threats, all that stuff happened in the penultimate issue. But with issue number 50, I love these kind of finales, knowing that a writer's moving on from this character. And I know she's jumping over to DC and she's doing some I think she was doing some Black Canary. I think they just announced that. But this issue gave them a lot of space to really let Carol deal with everything that happened. Actually, everything that I mentioned is pretty much all represented in this awesome cover there, showing all the different, over the last like 5 years or so. And she's a character that's constantly questioning herself as she's, she has a nice circle of friends. Your Jessica Drews there. You got She-Hulk there, Jessica Jones. A lot of characters that start with the letter J for their real name. But Carol has this support system, and even though they could be so supportive, she's always very standoffish. She's always kind of going off, and there's a whole party that celebrates everything that had gone on with the big, the recent end of the world type events. And she's caught out on the balcony just by herself and going through the thoughts and everything. Kelly Thompson does such a great job when it comes to like the inner monologue and even just dialogue throughout all the characters she writes. Every time her name's on a book, I pick it up because I know she's going to do an awesome job with those with just the actual written word. And a lot of good character work, a lot of new stuff that was thrown in here, a lot of stuff that including they're talking about that party. One of the hits of this party celebrating, all the events that had happened. It's an awesome double splash page, and a lot of the Marvel characters are talking about the fact that Jeff the Land Shark showed up at the party. Everyone gets pretty excited. I knew that Kirby would turn his head when I said Jeff the Land Shark. Um, uh, Throughout the story, everyone's kind of like whisperly, just like, "Oh, you're Jeff's here." Like, yeah, I wonder if he would sign this for me. And be like, he's a shark. He's not going to sign that. And like, but everybody is like so excited that Jeff's there. But one of the coolest things that has happened over the last 5 years since the movie came out, since this kind of new start with Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, is that there were two super fans of Captain Marvel online. I knew them through Twitter. I follow them, I've talked with them, and shared the excitement about the movies and the sequels and all the appearances with Brie Larson in the MCU and such. But Raph and Fernanda are two super fans that run these groups on Twitter. I'll probably put the text down here so I can have the accurate handles there. But basically, the Captain Marvel news fandom, and I think the other one is Captain Marvel like Brazil, and just kind of just doing all the news, whether it's related to the movies or the comic books. But they've been so supportive with promoting these issues, and Kelly's been super nice, kind of talking with them and rely on them for the fandom, that they got their cameos in the book. To anyone else, they probably wouldn't. If you're just a casual reader of the book, you probably wouldn't have noticed that. But it's one of those things that I recognized the faces immediately, and it was super cool to see them. And they're actually getting a selfie with Carol right there in that moment. And they're actually thanked in the back of the book too, as Kelly kind of gives her one page kind of send off talking about all the creators and the journey that she's taken with this, and calling them out and just kind of thanking them for all the support and stuff too. So that's such a cool moment, is that super fans of this book got thrown into the party. So yeah, this was just an awesome ending to an excellent 50 issue run, which is just so rare these days when it comes to superhero comic books, rather than doing 12 issues and jumping back to the new number one. This one went on for 50, and then, they're starting over now with a new era, a new writer, and all that stuff. But this was an excellent send off to an amazing run of Captain Marvel, led by Kelly Thompson and all of the amazing creators and the artists and the pencilers and the inkers and the colorists that followed. So that is my overall review of a 50 issue run of Captain Marvel. All right, let's jump over to Damon. What you got for us?
My next series is called We Have Demons. This was a 3-issue run. It was created by Scott Snyder. It was part of his own company. He started Best Jacket Press. Is his own company, and they had a simple goal when they created their company to make their own books without any creative constraints and do it on their own terms. So what he did was they did a joint venture with Comixology. They had 8 different stories that would be released as a digital series on Comixology, and then the collected they'd be also printed then via Dark Horse, which is what mine are. I have all 3 issues by Dark Horse. They're written by Scott Snyder. The pencils are done by Greg Capullo. The inks are by Jonathan Clapian. Colors are by Dave McCaig, and letters by Tom Napolitano. I'm bad with names, so I apologize if I butchered those. This is a complete story arc. It's basically set, the synopsis, if I can get my screen to work here, says, since the very dawn of man, legends have been told of the conflict between angels and demon kind. Lamb Lyle, a woman of science, dismissed these stories as just that, fiction. But when the loss of a loved one leads to the discovery of a hulking, benevolent demon named Helvis, Lamb realizes that her life is about to undergo a dire new direction. With a newfound partner and awesome powers now at her disposal, our hero suddenly finds herself thrust into a climactic war of good and evil, with no less than the fate of the world hanging in the balance. That being said, me being the horror guy, anything with demons, I'm in. And I really like Scott Snyder's writings. This is a 3-story arc. It's a short read. It was very well done. It's so much so that I don't even want to ruin the story, but I'll just show some of the artwork of the actual demons. And man, I wish I didn't have a glare. It's really cool. But basically the story is from space for thousands of years. There is 2 components that come down. One they call Halo and one they call Horn. Horn turns you into demons. It brings the evil that's inside of you out and you become a demon. The Halo is the essence that if you're a person of faith, you can use the Halo in a blade to slay the demons. The problem is there's more Horn than Halo, and therefore that creates the deficiency, and so the demons are trying to kill the people that have Halo, trying to wipe them out so they will be free. This little girl, an event happens, a loved one of hers dies, and then she finds out this whole story, and one of the members of her new team is actually a demon himself, and he is a giant. And that's the best I can do with my computer setup for showing him. But anyways, you're thrown into this war. It explains everything that's going on. The artwork is great. The demons look really cool. Some of the fight scenes are good. I am going to preface this by saying there is a lot of bad language in here. I mean, literally bad language. And it's hilarious because what the way they distinguish this in here is if you use bad language and you swear, that is more likely a hint that you're a demon. So I don't know. Can we even show bad language? I mean, we don't go to a library no more, do we?
No, I think you could show it if you want. Yeah.
But like, picture like an old grandma coming down the stairs, and I'm not gonna say it, but I don't know if you can read this little right there.
Yeah, we won't be able to see it at that. It's all kind of blurry.
Okay, good. That's fine. But mother blanking, blank gobbling pieces of blank, 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 blank.
All right.
Just picture a little old grandmother coming down the stairs, saying stuff like that, and that is the clean version. There is more bad language in here. I could understand why Marvel wouldn't release this, and they released this on their own company because they didn't have to deal with it. But it's not, bad language is not done to offend. It's done in a comical way, because you wouldn't picture like these like a couple with pregnant with triplets, and then all of a sudden they start spewing these bad words and turn into these demons and stuff. And it's done in a good way. Each one of these individual books comes with, again, special features in the back. Like this one has part of the script and the write-up from Scott talking about his company and why he's doing all that. And it's also available as a trade paperback now. But it hints that it says at the end of issue 3, end of book 1, which leads me to believe and hope that there might be a book 2 coming in the future. But I know he's a real busy man. And oh yeah, and one of the salutes that I find is funny is the middle finger. That's the slogan. Let's give evil the middle finger. And so like here is a nice image of them, doing just that. And so it's fun, it's funny. There's a lot of bad language, so definitely not for kids. It is very violent. People are mutilated and transformed into demons, which look really cool. And it was a fun little 3-issue ride. It's a complete story, and it doesn't end on any cliffhangers. It has a nice ending. So if there is no book 2, all is well. You can just create it in your mind on your own. But if you like Snyder's writing and Capullo's art, and you're into the horror kind of thing, it's not very scary. It's more just the fact that it's grotesque images. I'd recommend We Have Demons.
Cool. Yeah, we've had a couple of us here at the club that have all been on board for that and really gave high praise all around. So cool. All right, let's jump over to Kirby. What you got?
Yeah, I sadly looked at I think the 3rd issue at Flashpoint today. I was gonna look see if they had the other ones, and I passed it for now. And now I wish I would have grabbed it. But I got from American Mythology Productions and Buzz Hasten and Ken Hazer. We got The Living Corpse, Haunted. This is a reprint of a sold out issue from back in the day. First, you get 3 different short stories in here. First is a haunting at an abandoned mental institution that brings the living corpse out to investigate an army of feeble-minded ghosts to unlock the secret of the evil Dr. Death. Also, the living corpse meets Mumbles the clown and the ghost of Edgar Allan Poe. Join the corpse crew for more hardcore horror than you can shake a hatchet at. This our first story. It's basically ghosts are appearing all over the place, and the living corpse is trying to figure out what's going on. And we get this character that kind of looks familiar to a character we may know from horror past, and he's basically controlling the dead in a certain way, and our living corpse character has to help out. We have a certain nurse that's caught in his clutches, and I can't give away anything about her because it takes you into some history with him in the past. In between each story, we get some nice art prints of the living corpse. And then our second story, it's like they said, Edgar Allan Poe storyline, and we just so happen to get a certain parody of a writer in here that you may recognize from the pictures, and he just has issues with cats for some reason. I'm guessing that's a little Pet Cemetery play on Steven. But yeah, that was a fun story. And you get some more prints in there. And then our last story, like they said about Mumbles the clown, we have a sad clown sitting in a cemetery, just leaning up against the tombstone, ready to end it all. And the living corpse is like, hey man, this is my cemetery. I don't want your dead soul running around here all in misery after you die. And so he talks him into doing something, and he goes off and does it. And you have to read the story to find out. But this was very enjoyable. I don't know if I read this in the past, and I just don't remember these 3 stories. I may have gotten the original one before it went out of print. But the nice thing about it is, I'd like to see more companies do this. On the back, you have a flip over to a nice sketch cover. So you get the regular cover,
That's cool.
and you can do a sketch cover yourself on the back, which I'm going to play with tonight. But yeah, that was awesome. So nice little bonus to it. But yeah, check out The Living Corpse. All the stories are fun. Can't go wrong. And most of them are one-shots. So
Yeah, that is a cool idea. I don't think I've seen that before with the flip sketch cover. And
yep.
Cool. All right, we are going to jump back over to Jim. Tell us if there's any kind of, special girl powers you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about uncovering the Joker.
Oh, okay, okay.
The Joker uncovered. This is not a story. It is a collection of Joker covers, and they kind of tried to squeeze a silly story into it, like somebody falls into Joker's museum and Joker's showing him around before he kills him. But it's just basically a collection of artwork. If you're a fan of the Joker in all his iterations over the last few years, there are some fun covers, some gruesome stuff. This is a pretty scary version of him. Yeah, it's just variety of artists. They do a lot with the new character of Punchline, the new Joker girlfriend character. They don't do much with Harley Quinn though, which is a little disappointing for me. I like her a lot better than Punchline. And there are even a couple of paintings done by my favorite Batman artist, Lee Bermejo.
Yes.
And there's a really good one with Joker looking all the different Joker faces on the wall. And this cover with Joker Santa holding the boy in the Robin costume was just awesome. So nothing special as far as story, but like I said, as an art collection and collection of covers, it's just, great to have, great to look through. I think this is one that will stay near the top of the stack, if not more on a separate pile, so it can be looked at once in a while.
Cool. All right. Also, I'm no mixologist, but if you put a little rum in Punchline, gives it a nice kick. Let's jump over to that damn dirty Damon. What you gonna talk about next?
My next book is Planet of the Apes, issue number 1, which came out I believe June. Well, it says on my thing June, but I think I got this a little earlier than that.
They're usually kind of ahead in the publication date, so it's probably like a May book, I assume.
Right. This is written by David F. Walker, and the artist is Dave Wachter. I guess he's from Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon, and Star Wars: The High Republic. Colorist is Brian Valenza, and letterer is Joe Caramagna. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. At any rate, I am a big Planet of the Apes fan. I love all the movies in the whole franchise, even going back to the oldies. I picked this up because it was a number 1, and I wanted to see how it was in comics. I haven't read any of the other previous Planet of the Apes comics. If you are familiar with the newer Ape trilogy, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes, this book basically takes over right after the first movie in that trilogy, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. In fact, the first couple pages of this book kind of recap that first movie, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It explains how this drug was created to try and help with Alzheimer's, and instead what it did is morphed into a virus that started wiping out a lot of mankind, and it got dubbed the simian flu because they were using this drug on chimpanzees because they are really close genetically to humans. And so it got dubbed the simian flu, even though it wasn't apes that transferred or died from the virus. The result was everyone was kind of divided. Most people were trying to destroy all the apes, kill all the apes. All the people that were scared, thinking the apes were actually killing all the humans by transmitting this flu, which wasn't the case, and is kind of really not too intelligent, considering that since the apes are immune to this virus, we should be trying to use them to help find the cure because our genetic coding is so similar. That's basically the premise to this story. One of the cool double page splash pages was kind of like the scene from the end of the movie where they're on the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, causing havoc. If you've ever seen the movie, all the apes escape towards the end of the first movie. That being said, as a huge ape fan, I did not care for this book. I picked it up because it was a number one, and I'm not getting any more. I don't really have any interest. The way they kind of setting it up, it just didn't drive with me. They're trying to tell too many sub stories. Like, it goes between 6 different parts of the world, and you kind of get the premise of what's going on. It's Peacekeeper Juliana Tobin is one of the few willing humans to stand against all the others that are trying to kill all apes, and prevent the crisis from spreading. But apes will soon witness the true depths of human cruelty, which is what they kind of get a taste of in this book. And they're starting to develop their intelligence, and they realize that apes can only protect apes, and men will destroy and harm apes. And that is basically the whole setup from this first book, is the realization that apes are realizing that man is the enemy, and they can only look out for themselves. And there's a few humans willing to help, one which is this main character. She's a peacekeeper, Juliana. And I just got a bad vibe from the book for whatever reason. I don't know. The artwork is decent, to a point. The apes don't look that good to me. For instance, here's a picture of some of the apes in the wild. I don't know, it's just kind of a little distracting for me. The humans, they kind of look decent, but like when you have Caesar stand up and talking, they just don't. The art kind of takes me away. I don't know. And the story just, it seems like they're trying to do too much in a story that we already kind of know if you've seen the movies. It's like they're trying to rehash the movies, but show you the movie followed this group, but this comic is going to show you what this other group was doing at the same time the movie is going on. And that's basically what this is. This is just an add-on to the films. It doesn't even really highlight Marvel on the cover. The cover indicates it's a 20th Century Studios, which, you know, Disney and that. And then way on the bottom here, real black and white, kind of hard to see, they have Marvel. It's like Disney is trying to separate themselves and really focus that, hey, this isn't a Disney book or a Marvel book. This is a 20th Century Studios book. But it was all right, but I will not be continuing on. I didn't jump on the wagon. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know if anybody else has read it, because this was been out for a little bit, but
I hadn't, but it sounds like you're not going to go beyond further into the Planet of the Apes.
Not this run. I might pick up. I know they recently released a Planet of the Apes omnibus, which is all the old comics from way back in the day, which is pretty much like the comic version of the first 2 movies, Beneath the Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Those might be fun, but those are going to be older comics from the Bronze Age, 70s, 80s, I think, type of stuff. I might check that stuff out, but as far as like this new run, I think I'm just good with the movies, and I'll leave it at that.
You're just going to kind of escape from the Planet of the Apes #1.
Wow, I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming. I knew it, but there it was.
It is beneath him.
I wasn't sure if I was up for the conquest here, but it was quite a battle to get there. Anyways, let's go over to Dr. Love. Kirby, what book you talking about?
All right, we got Octobriana with Love. David Bowie was going to make a superhero movie about her. Billy Idol has a tattoo of her. And now, 50 years since her debut, celebrate the return of one of the most enigmatic comic book characters that you've never heard of. Octobriana with Love is an all-star 64-page, full-color, softcover graphic novel celebrating the 50th anniversary of the cult underground Russian superhero by an exciting mix of creative talent. For centuries, immortal warrior woman Octobriana has been the champion of the oppressed. Leading a ragtag group of freedom fighters, Octobriana travels the dimensional highways in her wonder machine, disrupting authoritarian regimes, overturning tyrants, and gate crashing the best parties. In Octobriana with Love, Octobriana and her underground take on a daring rescue mission above the skies of a near future Britain to rescue Lucretia Hussein, a young blogger destined to be a figurehead for a future revolution. To correct the course of history, Octobriana clashes with her ancient nemesis Baba Yaga, leading Octobriana to relive her past and setting the stage for a whole new universe of adventures. I hemmed in hard about getting this, and I'm really glad I did. There was also another new run that they brought out that I think is a 2-issue run that I also jumped on. I love this character. I figured for a Russian character, I wouldn't be that much into it, but she is a lot of fun. We start out getting to know about her origin and some other immortal characters that I'm sure she'll be dealing with in the past, including our Baba Yaga character and stuff. And the artwork's wonderful. It takes her back in a little mind game to some of her past battles where she deals with giant beasts and dragons and all this stuff. And the Baba Yaga character has this mind control thing that can look into her past and bring all those things to light, and then it wipes her brain of those images and stuff and thoughts. But at the same time, she's trying to help out this Lucretia gal, and who's like, I don't want to be someone that's important and have to deal with all this stuff, but she eventually learns to understand a little bit more what's going on as she travels with Octobriana throughout here. But then I love in our second story, and this is a $10 comic, but definitely worth it. You get a lot of value out of this, a lot of great stories. Our second story, we see a depressed Billy Idol just sitting there doing whatever at the Rainbow Lounge, and then it takes us into him getting his tattoo and all that stuff in here, and traveling with Octobriana, and they're dealing with like a giant mammoth creature that she has to battle, and just all these stories are just so much fun. All these different characters she dealt with. We go way into the past, into a pirates type story, a little Aztecian, Egyptian lore type story where she battles different beasts and stuff, and a little stuck in a like a Greek battle with cheetahs, and she goes into all kinds of different lore and history and all that, just all the different characters she deals with. And yeah, the Baba Yaga character just has it out for her. This is Baba Yaga in her natural form, and she just, in that story, Baba Yaga gets basically imprisoned by a guy that takes her ring away that gives her powers, and he uses the ring to get rich and just basically become a figurehead that people basically give all their riches to, and he can take over whatever he wants to take over. But the story has its own twist in the end, and it all works its way out. But yeah, these are a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the other 2-issue run that's come out. I believe this has 2 issues in it also. I think I have a second one coming yet for this. But yeah, if you've never heard, like me, about Octobriana, apparently was brought out 50 years ago, and if her stories were like this back then, she was way ahead of her time. And yeah, this is fun. So
yeah, I like the design of that cover, because it does, make it look like an older comic, like when it's like the logo and the label treatment and stuff, and so yeah, cool. All right, well, we have one more weekly review, so let's all get to the chopper. Damon, fly us away.
Okay, my last pick for this week was Predator #1, which came out back in March. This was kind of a blessing and disappointing all at the same time. I remember a couple years ago they were announcing when Marvel, Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, and Marvel announced that they would be continuing the Aliens and the Predator franchises. They released a couple of omnibus, and they announced they were going to do the Predator comics again. And I got real excited, and then COVID hit and everything got pushed and delayed, and the future of Predator was in doubt. I saw this Predator #1. I know I took a step away from comics for a while. I had to get it. I'm like, great, this is it. Come to find out, this is not really Predator #1. This is Predator Series 2 #1. Last year, there was a 6-issue run for Predator. This is the first issue for the next run by the same creators. So while I don't think I really missed a whole lot, I'm kind of bummed that I missed out on that set. But however, this got me excited. So this is part 1 of a 5-issue run called The Preserve. On a planet far from Earth, 8 strangers find themselves in a deadly game, but this time the predators aren't the only ones on the hunt. Someone has the Watcha in their sights. That was from the first 6-issue run that I didn't know. And they've been searching for this game preserve for a long time. Prepare for a brutal, carnage-filled adventure that will turn everything you thought you knew about predators on its head. The nice thing with this is there's a slight recap. So while you can't really read everything that's going on, it gives you a story. It says like 1987 in Central America, and it gives a brief description of what happened in the first Predator movie. Then it says 1997, a predator comes to LA, and it gives a slight description of what happened in Predator 2. Then the 8 individuals abducted from Earth. That's from the third Predator movie called Predators. Then it does the 2018 movie Predator, like a quick synopsis about that. Then it jumps to 2056 and a little description of what the previous 6-issue run was. And then it says, now the year is blank. They don't tell you. And this is what this book is. So I was a little disappointed. I don't know the story coming into that, but I got this primarily because I'm a huge Predator fan. And I wanted to see how much Marvel was going to cut on everything. And I was afraid because Disney does not like to go R-rated on anything. And I am glad to say that everything I was worried about does not exist. There is bad language in here. There is violence and blood and guts. The predators do rip people apart. You see the gore, graphic kills, all the things that you would want from a Predator comic are in here. Now, while the story is kind of rehashed from the third Predator movie, you know, a bunch of people, there's a different twist. Yes, these are all humans that have been pulled from our planet and dumped on this preserve, but they all come from different times. For some people, the last thing they remember is it's 1987. For others, it was 2019. You know, so they're all from different times, and that just adds to the confusion. And we're not quite sure what really is going on. There is definitely other creatures on this preserve that are also hunting the humans besides the predators. So it makes for a more interesting, in-depth story. For example, here's one of the creatures that attacks the squad. I don't know. I apologize for the glare off of my computer, but it's pretty cool looking. There is several predators in this first issue, but they're there just to give you a little taste of everything to come. So if you were afraid of Disney cutting out the violence and the blood, that is not the case. There is plenty cool, gory kills to satisfy you. I have high hopes for this. Unfortunately, I'm not going to keep going with this because I want to read the previous story first. So this is definitely something that I'm going to pick up in either trades or a collected edition with all the runs together. But yeah, I definitely got to get the trade for the previous 6 issues. And then by that time, this 5-issue run will probably be done, and I'll pick up the trade for that one. But if you're a fan of Predator and the Predator movies, this would be the way to go. The only disappointing thing is they never mentioned anything about the 5th Predator movie, which I would have been in there. But considering that takes place, 300 years ago, I could see why they omit it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Predator #1.
All right. That's going to do it for our weekly reviews. Let's move on to the news.
And now the news.
Welcome to the previews preview. This is part two. We're going to dive into the giant previews catalog, talk about the books that we are excited. Go 2 episodes back, and we'll talk about the Marvel and DC stuff from the June catalogs for products coming out in August and beyond. I will kick it off here. At the top of the show, we had Matt Fife and Matt Rodgers on the show. So on page 374, Keenspot Entertainment, Happy Astronaut, issue number 1. Since we did a whole interview and talked all about it, this is just kind of a reminder, not going to go in depth because we've already done that. So Happy Astronaut number 1 from Keenspot Entertainment. David, if you were to recommend anything in this catalog, is there something that you would want to, your go-to recommendation?
I probably would recommend just going through the catalog and ordering whatever it is that you're interested in ordering. That's my suggestion.
That's a really good, that's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
All right, Damon, if you were to recommend something from this catalog, man, what would you recommend?
I unfortunately did not get the preview, so I have nothing specifically, but it's always good when in doubt, just randomly flip to a page, cover your eyes and point, and whatever your finger touches, give it a shot.
I'm going to do that for my next round, so that's a great tip.
Never judge a book by its cover, so just pick it up and go for it. You might win, you might come out with a win.
Well, I know I can rely on Kirby here. What you got?
Barbaric, Wrong Kind of Righteous, #1 one-shot by Vault Comics. Double-sized one-shot introducing an all-new talking weapon, flail. Best-selling, we got Nicholas Ames and Michael Morrissey, Nathan Gooden, and Julius Ota to tell the tale of Sir Boris, the Righteous Paladin, and his trusty talking flail, as he enlists the help of Owen, Axe, and Soren on his noble path. There will be virtuous bloodshed, there will be wailing protest, there will be 2 talking weapons, and there will be Wyvern burgers, served for better or worse with pickles. If you've missed out on Barbaric, I suggest jumping on this if you like anything comedic, bloody, gory, just goofy slaughter type storylines. You have a barbarian that was punished by a witch to only help people out that are good people and dealing with any of their problems. He can't just go off and randomly slaughter people anymore. He's carrying an axe that talks and drinks the blood of its enemies that they destroy. We just seen at the end of the last Barbaric run, one of our sorceress gals is going off with our vampires blood sword that also has talking abilities and certain powers. And we are also just slightly teased about our flail character. That is another talking weapon that will devour blood as it destroys beings. And it's just so much fun and hilarity if you're into that type of thing. I suggest definitely checking it out. And this one shot probably wouldn't hurt you if you haven't read anything, but I suggest going back to the original Barbaric and just get to know Owen a little bit better. So
Alrighty. Katie.
At Boom, I have Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer, 1 of 5. So this is continuing the story we've talked about several times here on the club of Thessaly becoming the new Slayer. I actually have surprisingly quite enjoyed that, so I would like to learn more about Thessaly as she now fully takes on the mantle of Slayer in this new world.
Cool. I agree. Jim.
I am going for a book called the book is called The Devil's Cut, and this is from a new publisher. And this is a one-shot book featuring an anthology by many different writers and artists who are the founders of this new publishing company called Distillery, DSTLRY. Some of the names associated with this, the founding creators are Mirka Andolfo, Brian Azzarello, Mark Bernardin, Elsa Charte,
Cartier.
thank you.
Yep.
Becky Clunan, Lee Garbett, Jock, Joel Jones, Tula Lotte, Jamie McKelvey, Junko Mizuno, Stephanie Phillips, Scott Snyder, James Tinney in the fourth, and Ram V. Many of these are people I enjoy reading and looking at their art frequently. And so I'm expecting big things from this publishing company and looking forward to their first offering called The Devil's Cut. It's a 72 oversized printed pages on premium paper. And I believe they are going to also do a new model of digital distribution, which I don't know much detail about, but it's going to allow you to have full ownership, including the ability to resell digital comics. So like if you buy it, don't like it, you can sell it to somebody else, and the artist will get a cut of that sale as well somehow. So
Okay. Yeah, it was
well,
like
that sounds interesting.
like a month or two ago, and I just logged online, went on Instagram, and I just saw all of the artists that you had mentioned who are normally in my feed, and I started seeing that logo being thrown around. I'm like, what is going on here? And it was just this whole like new like revolutionary comic company thing. And yeah, this will be the first outing for them as a yeah, just a powerhouse of a name and selection of creators. So that's on my list as well. I'm curious to see what that is. Well, cool. I'm gonna take Damon's device here. Advice and just kind of do close my eyes and land right here. Oh, I landed on hell. I was gonna talk about this. So that's perfect. Yogs, the Kraynobi Tales graphic novel. A classic refreshed from master cartoonist Art Baltazar's early years. Join Kraby Kraynobi and his son, Kreisky Kraynobi, the future chosen one with the chosen nose, as well as their many friends and allies like Wizard, the Wise Wizard, as they adventure through mythical lands and try to save the city of Yogs and its people, the Yagis. But are Kraby and Kreisky enough to face the giant green gorilla, or even bigger foes as they ford a river of mud or enter the land of ashes? Kraby and Kreisky will need their wits and some helpful allies to help everyone. Art Baltazar kicked off his career with the Crybaby Adventures characters. Here's a little example of one of the original action figures that he handmade that's out there. And yeah, so this is a big dream project, almost kind of coming full circle, getting the treatment here from paper cuts with the publishing. And it was such a big deal when he had, inked this deal, and such a big moment in the famous cartoonist life. So this is the first outing of his kind of reimagining, redoing his original characters, the Crybabies, under the title of Yogs, Yahgz. All right, we're gonna jump over to Kirby.
Fire and Ice by Dynamite Entertainment. A fantasy classic returns to life with an all-new prequel series. Now, at long last, this timeless vision is expanding into comics with the first new story to revisit Frazetta and Bakshi's remarkable realm since 1982. Before the fire waned and the ice spread across the world, before Tigra met Larn, before everything you know about the unforgettable animated movie came to be, there were the before times. Times when evil might still be blunted, times when innocence was not yet lost. In Fire and Ice #1, Bill Willingham joins forces with Leonardo Manco making his triumphant return to comics, and a new legend is about to be born. My teenage days, I was into Conan the Barbarian. I got into the animated movie Fire and Ice back then, and I just want to see the prequel, see if I can recall some memories back centuries ago when I was 12 years old. But yeah, this was an interesting animated movie back in that time, and I'm curious what they're going to do with the book.
All right. Katie.
I also thought that Fire and Ice looked good. So, Fire and Ice by Dynamite Comics.
All right. Did you have another one right away you wanted to fire off?
Oh, sure. We'll go over at IDW from the My Little Pony line. Their classics reimagined. They have the Unicorn of Odd, which is the ponies retelling the Wizard of Oz. And I just feel like that's just like a really cool concept. It gives me like Wishbone vibes. Um, a- and I read their Little Fillies, which was the first one in that series. And again, I'm just kind of here for the concept of reimagining classic literature. So MLP Classics Reimagined, The Unicorn of Odd, #1. It is $3.99 in shops on August 23rd. Check it.
All right, Jim.
I'm going with The Cowl. It's a 5-issue series from Image Comics. Stories by Kelly Thompson, art and the cover by Mateja de Ulysse. And the summary is something is killing the children, horror vibes mixed with the Goonies style adventure as 5 friends set off to shoot a short film on a forbidden rock near their home the summer before they all go their separate ways. But that's not really why they're there. One of them has lied, and that lie will change their lives forever.
Yeah, that's on my list as well, Kelly Thompson. So, yep, that's definitely getting that one. All right, over at Oni Press, Cindy and Biscuit, We Love Trouble, softcover. Meet Cindy and Biscuit, a girl and her dog. People, even her mom, keep telling Cindy she's weird, that she's got a morbid, overactive imagination. But if that was true, why would she keep encountering all of these monsters, ghosts, and aliens in real life? Watch Cindy and her fearless four-legged beast friend best friend rather, get into all kinds of trouble as their little coastal town seems to have a preponderance of werewolves, undead mermaids, dimensional portals, alien invasions, and worse. It's dark out in the woods. Luckily for all of us, Cindy is the action hero we needed, just in time to save the world a few times between now and detention. I'm not familiar with these creators and these characters. Sounds like a new concept. Cindy and Biscuit seems like a fun title. And there he is. There she is with the dog. So Cindy and Biscuit, check it out. Kirby.
Local Man Gold, #1 one shot by Image Comics. Jack comes face to face with his explosive past when his superhero alter ego is blasted into modern day Farmington by a massive cosmic event. Now, Local Man has to get his younger, more extreme self back to his own time before he ruins what little life Jack has left. But it won't be easy. Cross Jack isn't the only one who's landed in the wrong era, and they're both being hunted by a vengeful hero from the past. Guest starring a ragtag team of your favorite Image Comics heroes, including Cyberforce, Street Angel, Love Everlasting, and Boof and the Bruise Crew. A perfect jumping on point for new readers and a must-have for old school Image heads. This summer, we're going for the gold. I love Boof and the Bruise Crew, so since it's a one-shot, I figured I'd check it out.
Cool. Katie?
I think that's all for me, aside from any we do with the club this time.
All right. Jim?
I have one more, and it is called The Plot Holes, by Sean Gordon Murphy, the man who created the Murphyverse for the Batman stories. And it is from Massive Publishing, another newer publishing house. And the plot holes are a squad of fictional warriors who transport themselves into the pages of other books, using their unique skills to save the plots in order to stop them from being destroyed. And Cliff is their newest recruit, a comic creator who's just realized his world isn't real. In fact, it's a complete fiction that literally exists inside a novel. The other members are misfits like him, pulled from unpublished books that couldn't be saved, a manga samurai, a barbarian tiger, a kid from a comic strip, and a vampire assassin. Outclassed by the other members, Cliff sets out to prove his worth to the plot holes as they save as many books as possible.
That's on my list as well. That sounds fun. All right, over at Fair Square Comics, not a New York love story trade paperback. Is this a dream or reality? He can feel her presence. He knows she's there, but she isn't. She takes him on a trip around New York and all the places he wouldn't go before the accident. From Coney Island to the Lower East Side, he's turning the pages of his life with the one he loved, the one he lost. Not a New York love story is a tale of emotions, grief, and a love letter to a city like no other in the world. Not a New York love story is not a romantic comedy, it's a drama. A tale of two souls with the Big Apple as its witness. The kind of story you'll need to read twice to peel its many layers. Yeah, I was just really intrigued by this and had a big representation with giant 2 pages here, just kind of showing it off. And I dig the title, and yeah, I'm gonna check out Not a New York Love Story. And Kirby will be ping ponging back and forth here to rattle off our last picks here.
All right, Monster Fun Petrifying Pets Special 2023 #1 one shot by Rebellion Comics. Angry animals and their outlandish owners are unleashed in the pages of Monster Fun this August. Curl up with your favorite fuzzy companion and discover weird and wonderful relationships between beast and beast. All of our regular residents, including Kid Kong, Witch vs. Warlock, Martha's Monster Makeup, Gums, and Space Invaded, return to tickle your funny bone. Whilst the Steel Commando and the Leopard from Lime Street are here to provide adventurous thrills galore. This issue also includes a brand new strip about the worst pet in the world, Frankencritter. I haven't picked up a Monster Fun one in a long time, and since it's pet special, I think I might check this one out.
You almost gave Eric a heart attack somewhere out in the world. So, all right, we're gonna jump over to Roaming graphic novel is by Jillian Tamaki and Mariko Tamaki. Over the course of a much anticipated trip to New York, an unexpected fling blossoms between casual acquaintances and throws a long term friendship off balance. Slick attention to the details of a bustling, intimidating metropolis are softened with a palette of muted pastels as those seen through the eyes of the first time travelers. The awe, wonder, and occasional stumble along the way come to the life with a stunning accuracy. I see Jillian Tamaki and Mariko Tamaki, new graphic novel. That's enough for me right there. So I'm checking out Roaming, the graphic novel. Looks like that's coming from Drawn and Quarterly. Kirby?
All right, the last one for me, other than possibly the iZombie Omnibus, is Chilling Adventures presents Strange Science #1 one shot by Archie Comics. Danny Malloy is Jinx, Holiday's best friend, and where one goes, the other is sure to follow, even if that means through hell and back and forth through the depths of space and time. When Danny receives a mysterious message from former friend Dilton Doily, Danny is horrified to learn that he's built a time machine and it's gone terribly wrong. And now the three of them have been transported to warped versions of Riverdale, where nothing seems quite right. It's up to Danny to set things right and bring them back to the present day and the hometown they know and love. And she might have to explain a thing or two to Jinx about what's going on. 2. Strange Science explores Danny's personal history, time travel, and the importance of being to to be true to yourself and what matters most to you. Another chilling adventures for us to jump on if anybody else is in there.
Yep, I'll be checking that one out as well. And I'm on the same section here with Archie because Archie, bite-sized Archie going viral. This is the second volume of the bite-sized Archie. I've talked about the first one last year. This one was supposed to come out last year as well. It was a slight of a delay, but I'm glad that it's reintroduced here, and it's a bunch of the web comics that they've done in 4-panel structure through their social media, and they've been printing them. So they've been hilarious, and I'm excited to get the next volume of Bite-Sized Archie. Over at American Mythology, they are doing, nope, that's not the company I'm talking about. Andrews McMeel. They're doing a Calvin and Hobbes portable compendium box set. I love myself some Calvin and Hobbes, but it's been quite some time since I've dove into those comics. So they have this brand new set here to kind of reintroduce it to the next generation. They have it kind of in a more compact size that they're advertising here. It's composed of 244-page paperback books, including over 500 comics from the strip's debut in November of '85 through March '87. It's the first of 7 sets total to be released between this year and 2026. So if you're looking to kind of collect all of the Calvin and Hobbes and brand new compendiums, then this is the year it's going to start. So I am super excited. You're holding up some Calvin there. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, that was that. Now the American Mythology title I was going to talk about, just because it's crazy, but we are looking at The Three Stooges versus Cthulhu #1. And this has Adam F. Goldberg attached to it, so all of this stuff seems to be checking some awesome, hilarious boxes. Larry Moe Curley and the Masters of Laughcraft meet Lovecraft, the master of cosmic horror. It's the ultimate mashup of slapstick comedy and spine-tingling terror as the Three Stooges take on the tentacle-faced elder god himself, Cthulhu. This is just ridiculous, so I'm going to get that. So that is that one. As I'm going backwards through the catalog here, so the next thing on my list will be talked about right now as I located it. Turtlebread graphic novel, the debut graphic novel from the Great British Bake Off star and author Kim Joy. Turtlebread explores mental health and the power of friendship, community, and, of course, baking. On her way home from another unsuccessful job interview, Yan stumbles upon Baking Club. Her social anxiety tries to keep her away, but the bakers encourage her to come out of her shell, especially the caring and supportive Bee. As the club bakes together, Yan discovers her new friends may need her too, more than she realizes. Kim Joy was just recently on the Comic Book Couples Counseling podcast. Friends of mine, Lisa and Brad, they just had an awesome interview, and this was a book that I had bookmarked, and then I saw it pop up in my podcast feed, so that just made me want it even more. So that is Turtlebread, brand new graphic novel. Plot Holes was bookmarked, so I'm definitely getting that one. We're nearing the end here. The Cowl, which Jim also mentioned, so we're going to go back here. I don't think anybody said The Schlub #1. All right. The Schlub #1 here. Vanish artist and writer Ryan Stegman and Superboy writer Kenny Porter team up with the Beef Bros artist Tyrell Cannon for a new action comedy series featuring colors by Mike Spicer and lettering design by John J. Hill. Failing dentist Roger Dalton blames the world for his problems until he is body swapped with the world's greatest superhero. Can Roger save Earth and finally prove to his family he's not a loser? Or are we all doomed? Had a funny title, had a funny premise, and something I could have probably skipped over until I saw that Ryan Stegman was involved, and I'm a big Ryan Stegman fan, and all of the people that he is working with are friends of his and fellow creators, partnerships, and all that stuff. So I'm definitely checking out The Schlub #1, and that one is from Image, I believe. All right, So that is going to do it for part 2 of our previous preview. Super important to pre-order your comics with your local comic shop, your preferred online retailer, and it just helps ensure that you get the books you want. They order the books that you want, and the publishers know and the creators know that there is support and interest behind the books. There are so many pages in here, 500 plus pages, Marvel and DC catalogs. We can't cover them all, so always highly recommend to dive into the previews. And then, as yet another advertisement, page 374, Happy Astronaut #1, to support some brand new creators that were on this very show. All right, we have another.
I just want to say, because it's been a while, so just want to say that the offer still stands. If anybody would like to order one of everything in the previews catalog, I will be happy to reopen Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles so that I can get that for you. And yeah,
See,
so go for it. Just let me know.
I was trying to get that from you at the beginning, and then you changed your stance, and I'm like, oh, that he's freshening it up, doing a new routine. But I'm glad that you came back and.
Well, I mean, that is my stance. I mean, you look at the catalog, you see something you like, order it.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff I like in here. So
Yeah, I'm
Order it
getting
all.
2 of everything, but I guess I can't order it through David because I'm getting 2.
No, I would be happy. Let's say if you would like to order a minimum of one of everything, but yeah, I'm not going to put limits on it. Otherwise, maximum limits. If you want to order 2 of everything, 3 of everything, I would be happy to take care of that.
I was going to say, because if Kirby was going to do 2 of everything, I was going to open and make my announcement that I am starting Crimson Growl Comics, and in the Crimson Growl Comic Club. But if you're going to do that, then I'm just going to scrape all those plans. So, all right, but we'll find out whether certain plans were scraped or not as we take another trip to New Zealand with Katie. So this is part 3 of Katie's New Zealand adventures. Please guide us through the next part of your awesome epic journey.
Sure, I'd be happy to. You can also book a trip with Crimson Cowl Travel Agency and Co. And we'll take you to New Zealand or anywhere your heart desires. Please do not call this number or try this at home. All right, so we talked about week 1 the last time, and now I'll talk about the second week of our tour. We left off the evening in Christchurch, which was just kind of a rest day, get everything back together day. If you remember, I had to fly down from Wellington down to Christchurch, and then the next day I rejoined the tour, and I think it was my favorite day of the tour because we drove out to the middle of nowhere to visit Mount Sunday, which is better known as the film location for Edoras in Rohan. This is a big location in the second Lord of the Rings movie and a little bit in Return of the King at the beginning. But mostly everything taking place here happens in the 2 towers. This was amazing. So we're driving way, way far out. And as we get more and more rural, it starts to look more and more like Rohan, where I'm like, wow, this looks like this looks pretty real. And then we turn the corner and all of a sudden there it is, and it looks like straight out of the book, right? So our tour guide Josh reads us the passage from the book where Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Gandalf come up upon the city of Edoras in the Golden Hall of Meduseld for the first time. And y'all, I tell you that there was some kind of astral projection or something amazing going on because it looks exactly the way it was described in the book. Just breathtaking. So let me describe Mount Sunday. So Mount Sunday is it's a mountain, of course, amidst a wide plains area that is, bisected by several different rivers. And then in the distance, there's big mountain ranges. And we were driving down into this valley because we're going to be hiking up the mountain, and it's all foggy. And by the time we're done with the day, the fog had cleared. It was magic. It was so cool. I mean, I understand meteorology, but trust me, it felt really cool. So anyway, we get to this site. We are going to hike from where we parked the bus across the plains, and up the mountain to the very tippy top where they did all the filming, and we'll stop along the way and see different film shots from the two towers. And Josh and Julie, our amazing guides, had, you know, stills from the movie so that we could compare the movie to real life. This was the hardest hike of the trip. I had been exercising and preparing specifically for all the hiking, knowing that, you know, this was going to be coming, this would be a tough one. And climbing that mountain with COVID lungs was absolutely brutal. It was incredibly painful. I would do it again tomorrow, hopefully not with having COVID lungs, because it was just phenomenal. So it was a pretty tough climb up, and we stop and see, like I said, different film locations. And then when we get to the top, like, first of all, the view is just absolutely incredible. It's so cool to be able to see out over these plains. And then you look at the mountains and you're like, wow, like compared to those, I'm not even that high up. And, you know, it took about a half hour to get up top this mountain. So you think about what that means and like, wow, like nature is something pretty cool. Like there are forces of nature that I can't comprehend with my little mortal brain, because they are something else. It was a very powerful experience being on top of this mountain, because we were, you know, a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings fans, and it's straight out of the movie. Like you can line up, like, okay, there's where the stables were, that's where the Golden Hall was, that's where the bell tower was. And you know, for me, it was actually a very spiritual experience. Like I definitely felt close to forces greater than me, and I felt very accomplished and content and at peace, because like this is a goal that I have held for so long to get to this place. And it's so cool because everyone got to have their chance to go up of the mountain and hold the Rohan flag. And we all got a chance to, like, you know, do some poses with a sword and a bow and take really awesome pictures. And we did group photos together. And they even had like a smock of Aowen's dress, and everyone got to put on the smock, including the guys, and take some cool photos as Aowen. What else? I feel like just the work of doing this climb made it worth it. I mean, we were probably up, it felt like we were up there for a very long time, but probably about 45 minutes, and then about a 20-minute hike down, thanks to gravity. And I had a few moments where, you know, I had done my pictures, and then I just went and, you know, looked at other parts of the mountain and sat down and was just like appreciating and trying to take all of that moment in and try and capture in my mind as much of what I was feeling as I could. Phenomenal day. And by this point, you know, the sun was coming out, the fog was clearing. So that was just super cool. And it was very meaningful for me personally. I know it was meaningful for our group. Everyone, all of us who were grousing and complaining the way up were like, this is totally worth it. This was, you know, the best decision. And we were all so supportive too, right? Like, so I'll send some pictures, but like we're climbing some pretty steep rocks. So there's like 4 people getting you up and down this rock for pictures. And I should point out, we do have permission to be here. It's Department of Conservation land. So we weren't trespassing, but it is pretty out of the way. So we had most of the mountain to ourselves. But it took 4 people to get you up, because you have someone helping you up, someone holding your phone or camera, someone to hand you the flag, and then another person to help you back down. So a lot of teamwork went involved, which, you know, I think it's a level of bonding. But yeah, that was my favorite day. I would go back again tomorrow and go and do that. Now that I know how much harder I need to train. So I did a lot of cardiovascular. It turns out I should have also done some weight training. So I would go back again tomorrow with the added caveat that maybe, you know, I've been lifting some weights, put in a couple of leg days. Amazing. I could talk about it forever. If anyone does ever get the chance, go, like, really, you should go. I will say some of the senior citizens in our group declined climbing it, which I completely understand, because it was quite a good hike. But if that's something you want to do, take into account that you might not be physically able to do it by the time you get there. So balance that out, because I would hate to be like, oh man, I can't wait to go and climb Edoraz and see where the Golden Hall was, and you're not able to. Time, unfortunately, does catch up with all of us. But we then got to bus back out, and we had an afternoon break where we stopped and got to be rewarded with ice cream and cheese, which was an absolute delight. Every time you climb a mountain and go hiking, I think you should have ice cream available to you. That was awesome. We had a lovely group dinner at our hotel that night. And then the next day, so we had a much shorter drive, thankfully. We drove out to some film locations from the Hobbit movies, and we met the guy who owns this land, right? It was a big farm on the shores of a lake called Lake Pukaki. Um, he was quite the character. And apparently he was being very tame that day, but he was a very eccentric fellow. But that was a pretty funny morning, and we got to try our hand at doing some archery. Spoiler alert, most of us were terrible, but it was still funny anyhow. If we were tasked with defending Lake Town, Lake Town would not exist anymore. That's just zero survivors if our group had to try and save them, but we gave it our best effort. And then we drove over to a field that they had used quite a bit in Return of the King for the Battle of the Pelennor Field scene. So that's a pretty key piece in the third movie. We have the Rohirrim charging the orcs of are attacking Minas Tirith, and it seems like things are going their way. And then the Haradrim show up on the Mumakil or the Oliphants. Pretty big scene in the movie. Blew my mind when I first saw it on the big screen. Like little 5th grade me was like in shock. That was wild. So we get to go out to this field and reenact the Battle of the Pelennor Field. So everyone do Théoden's speech, and we got to have swords and run by and do that scene, and then we got to switch and be the bad guys, and I got to dress up as the Witch King, which was pretty hilarious. So I have some great selfies of me wearing a Witch King costume hood type thing, and we got to reenact the scene where Éowyn and Merry fight the Witch King and kill him, so that was super funny. A lot of great photo ops. Yes, it was just a field. The fog made it a little more atmospheric. Like I said, we were going into autumn at this point, so we had rainy overnights and mornings, so the fog was burning off. Just a field, but a super fun opportunity. And now I can say that out of all of the many fields that I have seen, I have now seen a field where they filmed a movie, so that's pretty neat. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so when we were visiting the Lake Town location, right, it's a working farm. So like there are animals, there's tractors, all that stuff. And this is so lame. I see cows every single day, right? I have family that are steer farmers all around us. There are all kinds of small farms and mid-sized farms with cows. But when the cows came over to come and visit us while we were at this location, I was like, oh, look, cows! Oh my goodness, New Zealand cows! They're just cows, but you can always tell a Midwesterner by the fact that they get excited about seeing cows, even though we see cows every day. So I got to also see some New Zealand cows, a big day for this little Wisconsin girl. That evening, we had a pretty chill overnight. And then the next day, we reached the final destination for our trip, which was Queenstown. We had 3 days in the greater Queenstown area. Let's see. So that Friday morning, we stopped and did some bungee jumping for those people who are brave enough to do that. I am not, but we got to either bungee jump or watch people bungee jump over the River Anduin from the Fellowship of the Ring, and that was actually pretty interesting. Watching people jump from our group or not. Some people were right up for it, and like they were 3, 2, 1, they went. And then there were a whole bunch of others that needed quite a bit of assistance to decide that they were going to in fact jump. I will say nobody was forced. Everyone who jumped decided to do it of their own free will, but that was quite the experience, and a very beautiful location. So if you are a thrill seeker, that might be a bucket list for you, but still really cool nonetheless. Queenstown was stunning. So it's definitely a resort town, but it felt really nice. We stayed in a gorgeous hotel down by the lake. So that was just super fun. We got set free Friday afternoon to like go and do what you want. So I had my coffee break down in front of the lake and just admiring the views and appreciating being there. It's all like it's very tourist friendly, so it's set up around a lot of shopping. So we got to wander in and out of the gift shops. And yeah, that was our afternoon to kind of do what we wanted. I did a lot of shopping, a lot of sampling snacks. We did have a couple things as a group where we got together. And then I had some delicious ramen with some other members of our tour. The next day, Saturday, was a really big day. We had a pretty early call because we were going out to several Department of Conservation parks, and we were going to hit 7 different film locations. So we saw film locations from the Two Towers, where where after Gandalf has rejoined Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, they call up Shadowfax, and Shadowfax, Gandalf's horse, comes running up to them. And then most of Fangorn Forest was actually filmed in a studio, but for the parts where they wanted the 3 hunters kind of just outside the forest, like having crossed over the plains and they're going to go into the forest and get those couple like big wide shots, those were filmed outside in the same location where they did the calling of Shadowfax. So we got to get out our costumes again and reenact being Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Gandalf, and we got to all take some group photos inside of Fangorn Forest. If I was an ant, I could see myself living there, like looking around. I was like, yeah, this seems kind of ant-like, they could enjoy this. So that was really cool. And we actually had people dress up as Shadowfax, and we put them in a Shadowfax costume. And someone got to literally be a horse's ass and act out being Shadowfax. And we had one of the tour members follow behind them with the coconuts, like Yes from Monty Python, and do the clippy clop, clippy clop, clippy clop noise. That was just absurd. That was fantastic. There are some wonderfully bad videos of different tour members pretending to be Shadowfax. Just amazing. Bring your sense of fun with you on this tour, because otherwise you'll just feel too stuffy and you'll miss out on a lot of the stuff. Like, yeah, you're gonna look dumb, but who cares? Like, this is your lifetime opportunity to do this. So we covered those 2 tower spots, drove into the Mavora Lakes park. So I'd compare it to like a state park where like we have like Devil's Lake. And anyway, so Mavora Lakes, they filmed a lot from the Fellowship of the Ring. Basically, like the last quarter of the movie is shot out in those lake areas, in that park area. So we got to shoot scenes where the Fellowship is on their leaving Lothlorien on the boats on the River Anduin. And because Peter Jackson's an absolute mad lad, like there's like 3 seconds of them on that river, and then the next camera shot is actually from the day before where we were doing our bungee jumping, and then back to the Mavora Lakes. So I swear these movies would never get made today, because like I feel like they almost were just like, yeah, this seems cool, let's go ahead and do it, versus like today it'd be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. That you guys have to follow rules and standards and procedures. Anyway, and then what else was really cool? So we got to see where Frodo, at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring, decides that he's going to go to Mordor. He's going to leave the Fellowship, and he's taken the boat out to go. And then Sam comes barreling down out of the forest and is like, "Wait, stop! Don't leave me!" Right? And it's a very emotional scene. I will not reenact it for you, although I could. But we got to do that and see that location, and that was a moment where it felt like I stepped into the film. Like, I have screenshots on my phone of the movie that match the pictures that I took of that, which is amazing. And then we got to play in the forest around there, where is kind of the final battle of Fellowship of the Ring takes place, where the Uruk-hai have found the Fellowship. Boromir has had a moment of madness and has tried to take the ring from Frodo, and things kind of fall apart. And so we got to take pictures at the tree where Frodo is hiding from the Uruk-hai, because they are, of course, looking for him to take him to Saruman. And we also got to take some pictures where Merry and Pippin are hiding underneath another log, and they're like, Frodo, come here, like, we'll help you. And, they realize that Frodo has made the decision that he's going to leave. Very cool. I have some great pictures of me pretending to look really scared while I'm pretending to be Frodo, sitting on this tree, which, that was pretty cool to think like, oh yeah, like this tree was actually in a movie. That was neat. What else? That was just a very cool day. We had a little trivia contest, which my team won. I like to think I did my part to help them win. That was nice. Another day driving through gorgeous scenery. Like, I don't think there was any day where I was like, man, this road trip's really boring. Like, I'm going to like read my ebook or something like that. And then we had a group farewell dinner where, it was very bittersweet because nobody wanted to leave. We were all like, man, like, I can't believe it's done. Like, this is just, it's been the best. We had 2 tour group members who had been in a relationship for a long time, and they got engaged that day. So that was really lovely. We got to congratulate them on their ring and, sign their little card for their wedding book. That was lovely. And everyone just had the chance to like reflect on what this tour had meant to us. And we took a bunch of pictures. We all got to give our guides, Josh and Julie, some hugs and like tell them how much this meant to us. And several of us went out that evening. I went out with some of the other girls, and we had some delicious ice cream, and we just enjoyed an evening on the town, although we were all very responsible and we're back at the hotel by like 10:30 because we all had activities the next day. Sunday was the optional activities day. Most of the group did a safari tour of more rings locations. When I was planning this, I'm like, you know what? I've never done a trip like this. Like, I'm probably going to be really tired by the time I get to the end. I don't know that I'm going to enjoy that. So I did not do that tour next time. I actually went to the onsen in Queenstown. So I have some awesome pictures of visiting the onsen hot pools and just looking out over the mountains. It was so just amazing. And I'm sure, being tired and emotional contributed to it, but I started crying because the view was so beautiful. And I just felt like a sense of having achieved my purpose and like done something that was really, really important to me, and just felt like things were okay, and like the greater forces of the universe were in that moment. They were okay. And that was just super powerful. And kind of tough to come down from that because I didn't want to leave. I'm like, I don't want to come back to the States. I want to stay here. Like, this has been the trip of a lifetime. And then the next day was Monday. Monday we had our last group breakfast together, which was very sad. There were a lot of hugging and some tears. And then I had some time until it was time to catch my flight back up to Auckland. So I went over to a Kiwi conservation park. New Zealand has a lot of unique animals because given that they're an island, like, they don't have any natural predators. The predators they do have were introduced by the Europeans by and large. So they have a lot of unique animals, and I wanted to take the chance to go and see them. So I got to visit the conservation park. The kiwi bird is a lot bigger than you would imagine. Like, in my mind, I imagined it to be like, like a bird-sized bird. No, this bird was like closer to the size of a rabbit. This thing is huge. So the kiwi is a flightless bird. It doesn't have feathers. It's nocturnal, and it has this really long like beak that is actually like not like prehensile, but like grippy. I don't know. It's weird. And to visit them, because they're nocturnal, they're in this dark like kiwi house. I don't know, this dark exhibit. And the lights are dim to their comfort, so you have to wait for your eyes to adjust, and then you'll see this like thing scurry by you and like, oh, it's a kiwi. And we got to watch the keepers feed them, which is pretty funny because they eat bugs. And so the keepers are like, hey buddy, how's it going? And then burying this packet of bugs for the kiwi to then dig out again. pretty neat stuff. Got to see some other cool animals, some owls, which I really like. They're one of my favorite animals. Some different breeds of parrots, and a lizard. That was neat. And then sadly, it was time to leave. I dragged my feet back to the hotel and felt quite sorry for myself, but also quite accomplished. And I get to the airport, I'm waiting at my gate, and thankfully, there are a whole bunch of other people from my tour there. What are the odds? Four of us are all sitting together in the same row of the flight, and we have several other people from the tour scattered on the plane as well. So it felt good to give them one last hug bye and wish them well, and that felt good. That felt like the right way to close out that part of the tour. I was fortunate. I had a few more days in Auckland, just due to when flights match up. I didn't want to take the chance that my flight from Queenstown would get messed up on Monday and I'd have to miss my international flight. So I was in Auckland again until Wednesday evening. And on Tuesday in Auckland, it was actually a public holiday, but I was able to go to the Weta Workshop Unleashed experience. I had missed visiting the actual Weta Workshop in Wellington because I was sick and just an absolute mess. But I was glad I got to experience at least this version of Weta, which was more of a tourist attraction versus like, hey, here's an actual working movie effects studio. But it was a really well done tourist attraction, like incredibly creative, very immersive. We got to walk through like three basically like fake movies that like show how Weta does their process of creating props and effects and VFX, all kinds of cool things. There was a horror movie, there was a fantasy movie, and there was a sci-fi movie. Really fun. It was definitely acceptable for kids. The cutest part, there was a little boy on this tour, and it was all very, very real for him. He 100% was believing in the magic, and thank goodness our tour guide was like playing right into it and like, you know, treating like it's all 100% real, and everyone was into it. And I thought that was just really lovely because, like, you know, I had adults do the same thing for me when I was little and getting inspired by Weta Workshop and related things. And that's a large part of the reason why I did this trip, is the amazing people who have shown me so much love and compassion over the years. So just to give my tiny little part of that to the next generation was like, this is a good full circle moment. Like this is why like this stuff is more than just a movie. It's more than just a book. Like it's the community behind it and the love that drives that community that makes it special and that makes you want to continue to participate in. So that was super sweet. I think if you're a fan of like haunted houses or themed entertainment, or like Disney parks, you'd probably really appreciate this. The horror part was not that scary. I don't like scary things. It was more like kind of like gross out scary. Like we were pretending to like dissect an alien. So, you know, they had like a fake alien you could like play with, but pretty cool anyway. Something that I enjoyed was we got to see actual chainmail, screen used chainmail from The Lord of the Rings. So Viggo Mortensen, the actor that plays Aragorn, is straight up insane. So they had prop chainmail for him, which is already pretty heavy. But then Viggo said, no, I want to wear the real chainmail, like actual like chainmail. And so he filmed all of his stuff as Aragorn at Helm's Deep wearing real chainmail. That stuff was so heavy. Oh my goodness. Like I cannot, like just holding it was heavy. I cannot imagine wearing that and like running around and swinging a sword and being an absolute mad lad. So very cool. That's another reason where I'm like, yeah, I don't know if the safety rules would let them get away with that in 2023, but that's pretty darn awesome because I do think it makes a difference. That was really cool. Of course, I got suckered into buying the photo package so I could, you know, get the pictures. And then I spent too much money at the gift shop. So everyone is going to be getting Lord of the Rings themed gifts for like the next 3 Christmases. So just prepare yourself for that. That was really cool. And then I just had kind of an afternoon of like walking around the Auckland city center. I stopped at a couple bookstores. And then the next day was departure day where I totally dragged my feet. And did a little more shopping, just a little more messing around. And then it was time to go to the airport. I had an overnight flight and Yeah, I went to sleep. We were flying over the ocean and I woke up and we were flying over the United States. That was pretty neat. Oh, also time travel. So I left Auckland on April 26th at 8:45 p.m. I arrived in Chicago on Wednesday, April 26th at 6:30 p.m. It was a 15-hour flight and I arrived and landed on the same day. Go figure. Pretty crazy. Um, so time travel is real. All good things to say about Air New Zealand. I watched a couple episodes of House of the Dragon. That show looks really dope, so I kind of want to watch more of that. And yeah, then I was quite jet lagged for several days, so I had to reset my schedule while I was quarantining and such. But yeah, that was my New Zealand trip. I could talk about it forever, and I probably will. Like, you're going to be hearing about this 5 years from now, so just keep that in mind. It was top 3 coolest things that I've ever done, and I am immensely privileged and amazingly fortunate. Yes, I worked very, very hard to get here, but I know that this is not something everyone gets the chance to do. So I am incredibly grateful that I did get to do it and I was able to take advantage of that privilege. And more than that, I am just enormously thankful for all of the love and support that everyone has given me, especially here at the club and at Dungeons and Dragons. I could not do it without that love, that kindness, that support. It really does mean so much. It's the greatest gift you could ever give me. Yeah, New Zealand's phenomenal. Our guides, Julie and Josh, were awesome. The place was called Red Carpet Tours. They specialize in doing Lord of the Rings tours. Would completely recommend them. In fact, I plan on going again to do stuff that I missed. And just because New Zealand is an amazing place, I learned so much about it. I know that there is still so much more that I have to learn about New Zealand and about the world in general, but for a first international trip and for something that has this much personal significance for me, it defies expectations how good it was. I'm so thankful. I think that wraps up my reviews. I was thinking about doing some snack reviews. If anyone's interested in New Zealand snack reviews, with some little anecdotes thrown in, I can definitely do that. But those are the touring highlights of my trip to New Zealand. Thank you again so much for listening. I appreciate it, and I love you all. Take care.
Well, it's definitely awesome to hear those adventures and stories in detail, even for someone like me who's not, I'm not well versed in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but it's always fun to hear those adventures. And it's very clear that, a super fan, and you talked about the the lifelong dream of wanting to do this. And with the exception of, COVID and going through those adventures, it seems like everything, went pretty well, and like you said, you're going to keep talking about it, and great experience. And the out of all of that stuff in the last 3 parts, is there one top memory, like if you were to spend, like, just to highlight the best part, even if you told us already, is there something that comes to mind on what was the greatest experience of that trip?
So in terms of things we did, that would be visiting Edoras. Mount Sunday was pretty cool. But I would say the greatest memory is the care and compassion that everyone else on the tour showed for one another, and the skillful guiding of Julie and Josh, and they really looked out for us. And they especially went above and beyond to look out for those of us who did take a few days off to get sick. Would be those 2 things are my favorite. So favorite thing I did was Edoras, and then just the overall vibe of the people was my favorite thing, because I feel like that could really make or break your trip. Like if you have a bunch of people that are, like putting each other down and, not understanding how important this is, and that could suck. But we didn't have that. We had the best. We had above and beyond, and that stands out to me. Like I think about that every day.
That's awesome. And you had mentioned some pictures. You had sent them over. So on the Crimson Cowl on Instagram, you can see a couple photos. I assume you'll send a couple more that I can attach to the upcoming posts and stuff too, for anybody listening.
You betcha.
That want to see some of those pictures. And then because you talked about, being a Midwesterner and going and you see cows and you're still excited about it. You're in here
Yup.
in the land of hobbits and all that stuff. While listening, I decided to draw a hobbit cow, a
Oh
cow
my
with some
god.
hobbit feet there. So I
That's
guess,
awesome.
is this what the cows look like, or did they look like ones that we experience here?
Um, you know, I think you drew a Middle Earth cow, but a New Zealand cow looks a little bit more like a Black Angus steer. But they definitely have cows that look like that in Middle Earth. Like, but
Hey,
no,
Gary,
that's awesome, and I love the fact that you just whipped that up while I'm rambling. I love that. Like, you should make that a print. That's fantastic.
well, this will have your name on it next time I see you. So
Oh, thank you.
I have so
That's
many
super cool.
I have so many hobbit feet cows in here, it's ridiculous. So you can take one of them too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just your average regular Hobbit feet cow.
Oh yeah, yeah, just run of the mill.
Yeah,
Well, that was awesome. Once again, thank you for sharing those adventures. It's cool to kind of see the excitement come through, and here you are back at the Crimson Cowl Comic Club. So you were
hmm
missed, but I guess it was a great reason. You had a good reason for missing those episodes.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, that is going to do it, everybody, for this episode. Thank you to our guest in our pre recorded interview, Matt Fife and Matt Rodgers, for Happy Astronaut #1. Thank you again for Katie for sharing those adventures with us. All of the plugs that we talk about will be in the after credits. So the quick version is crimsoncowl.com for information and original webcomics. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube. We can watch the video version. You can watch a spin-off Hellboy podcast. There's 2 episodes up now. There's several banked, and there's going to be another one coming up soon. The Crimson Cowl, one word on Instagram. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes for subscribing, rate, and reviewing the audio version of the podcast. Any questions or comments or concerns? Crimson Cowl Comic Club at yahoo.com. Kirby has a spin-off podcast under the Call of MS. Follow that wherever you get your podcast, as well as YouTube. I have some hobby artist account on Facebook and Instagram. Anthony Latch, LAATSCH. And then I also host Cartoonist by Night on YouTube. We just dropped an episode all about Happy Astronaut with Matt Fife, Matt Rodgers, and myself. So in addition to what we talked about here, we have another 2 hours, 22 minutes of hanging out, drawing characters, talking about their origin, and getting the word out about Happy Astronaut. Last week, we had Desmond Reed on the show for the creator of the Cola Pop Creamy. So if you are new to the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, you jumped in because the Happy Astronaut creators were on, feel free to check out the last episode as well as the other episodes back catalog through YouTube and whatever's available on iTunes. That's going to do it for this episode. This whole time, I've been working a shift at the El Crapo Stink Factory.
I've been a melancholy cosmonaut.
I'm on my way to Willy's for some party-filled blood splatter.
I just remembered I got to contact Weird Al to tell him that it's Accordion Awareness Month.
I bought a Hobbit cow dairy farm.
Occasionally, it's fun to put on someone else's costume and see what makes them tick and how I can drive them mad.
And because I couldn't grab my accordion without knocking a bunch of stuff over, I'll just leave on this. David, can you say the words?
To be continued.
Thank you, Slimer.
Happy and his pal, a robotic stowaway named Half, are on a mission. Find whoever stole Half's missing pieces and get those pieces back. After promising each other that they'd pursue even the faintest of clues to the furthest of corners, our spacefaring duo have bounced from one adventure to the next, hoping that eventually they'll end up in the right place at the right time. Their next stop, a tiny little oasis on a giant planet of star-spewing volcanoes, a place where robots melt and humans bake, and magic-imbued stars rule the land, or so they think. Happy Astronaut is perfect for readers of all ages, filled with action, humor, and heart. This debut issue will have many exciting covers to choose from, including a blank sketch cover variant to commission your very own cover. Pre-order Happy Astronaut #1 from your local comic book shop or directly from keenspotshop.com.